Welcome to the Genre of Your Life podcast, a show all about movies, TV, and why we love entertainment. This is episode number 22. I am one of your hosts, Doug Jones. With me, as always, is my esteemed and fantastic co-host, Mr. Nick Johnson. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing very good, very good. Very happy to be here.
Likewise, my friend. Happy Barbenheimer weekend.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Officially upon us. This is probably the last two big movies of the summer. Well, I guess Ninja Turtles and Haunted Mansion are the last two, but these are like the last two kind of like big like releases of the summer that we're all kind of hoping for, because with Indie flopping and Flash flopping and Transformers flopping, it's been a summer of like, well, shit, what's next?
Yeah.
But hopefully Chris Nolan and Margot Robbie can save the box office for all of us. And you all here too. Welcome to the show. As always, guys, you can find the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, or your favorite podcast platform of choice. You can also hear the audio show as well on YouTube at our YouTube page, Midway Avenue Productions. While you're there, or you're in the Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever, hit that follow button, leave a review. It helps us out, helps the show out tremendously. As always, guys, thank you so much for your support. Before we get into the Barbenheimer madness that is this week in this episode, first things first, it's been, as we all know, the actors and writers have been striking now. The actors were striking them now for a week. I believe the writers have been going on for about 70 days, might be a little bit more. Don't quote me. I think it's 70 days. But, the thing is, streaming is definitely still very kind of like new, and they're still trying to navigate, residuals and back-end deals and all kind of stuff. Times will change. But, I think what we're seeing a lot now too is that there's not a lot of like leadership on both sides, if you ask me. So my thing, the past week I was reading articles and stuff that now Peacock is going to be raising prices during a strike, which I think is very questionable. And now Netflix is doing this thing, which I'm like, I don't get their Netflix's motto or philosophy at all the past year, if you ask me. I mean, I worked there for a month before I got fired. I'm sorry, let go because of project ended, I would say, because of the worst financial quarter ever for them. But now they introduced this thing of like, we're gonna do like a basic ad tier plan, $10, which is more people joined it because it was like affordable. You weren't paying all this stuff, but as always, there was restrictions because you couldn't watch everything. You had to watch things on like standard def. You couldn't watch things on HD, unfortunately, and you couldn't watch like certain originals, which was also kind of weird. But anyway, it has now been reported, as well as Peacock raising their prices, Netflix is going to be cutting their cheap ad tier subscription base. And I'm like, wait, you're doing this during a strike as well? Nick, you first, my friend. I don't know that this is good business, but what's your take on all this stuff? I feel like it's kind of like crazy to do this, mid-strike, two strikes, but also just in general that you're going to lose like a bunch of people, consumers.
Yeah, it seems like, admittedly, I'm sorry, I haven't been following this like too much, but it seems like Netflix has just kind of been acting a little funky for a little bit. Even like I think before the strike, they were saying like, we're gonna restrict how many people can I use, or not restrict how many people can use it, but like you guys, you can't be sharing like the passwords and all that. And it's like, well, I understand you got to have like policies for the company that you're running, but it's like, I don't even know. Forgive me, bro. I've kind of been.
No, you're good.
I fucked up, bro. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
But no, it just seems like Netflix has kind of been on some, I don't want to say bullshit, but for lack of a better term, man, it's just been kind of like, you're doing shit to make us not want to continue our subscriptions, man.
Right.
Like the whole, like I said earlier, like the whole password thing, like, oh, don't share it. If you share, like, you're either going to be restricted or whatever. I don't have Netflix personally, so I'm not sure exactly how it all works, but it's just like, I don't know. I just don't get it. I didn't work at Netflix, so maybe there's just something that I'm missing. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't get it either, and I feel like this was my thing. I was like, I think with both when the writer's strike happened, now the actors, I was like, this is gonna be. I thought it was gonna happen maybe after the strikes ended, whatever that will be. But I was like, wait, you're doing it mid, not just one strike, but two strikes. That's just like you're hurting the consumer. And Peacock is still a very new, like Paramount Plus. I think those two are very new. you know, platforms for streaming platforms because they're not as been around as much as Hulu or Netflix, obviously, or HBO Max. Now it's on Max. It just to me, I'm like, well, Max did the same thing. I think right when the writer strike was happening, was they're going to raise our prices because of our new service. If you want 4K now, it's $5 more. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, but you're also hurting the consumer because, like I said before the show started, I was saying this to you, Nick. I was like, life ain't cheap.
Yeah, with all this stuff going on, it doesn't seem like the right time to start raising prices. Because
Yeah.
also, just in
Read the
addition
room.
to what's up?
Read the room, right?
Right. No, yeah, it's like you pick kind of an awkward time to try to get more money out of us because there's a strike going on. And in addition to that, just it's all these new streaming platforms that keep like popping up. And one just I've had a couple of conversations like this, like, well, how many streaming platforms are there going to be? Because now it's like, if there's a show that I want to watch that looks good, okay, bet I'll just. The initial thought is like, well, I'll stream it whenever I'm able to, but it's
Right.
like, well, you have to buy this new subscription. It might be like Netflix, Disney Plus, Peacock, Paramount, like Apple TV, all of this kind of stuff. And it's like, I don't know, like in
It
a
adds
more
up.
general sense, it just kind of seems like a lot of things are kind of going to shit, and it's a lot of stuff going on right now that it doesn't make sense to me. It just kind of seems like it just like why I don't know. It just seems like, why are you guys doing this, one, at all, or two, like right now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just seems kind of a little tone deaf, maybe.
Yeah, it's bad timing, and no, this is now going to feel. I think I don't know if this was if I was striking, which I'm not, which we're not, but it's also it's too hot to strike right now. It's hot
Oh,
everywhere,
bro,
West Coast.
I was driving back home today. It was 120 degrees, man.
God, yeah. For our listeners, we're in the Phoenix area, and we live in the
Yeah.
desert, and really, it's been excessive. Like maybe 20 days now, the record of like excessive heat warning with 120 degrees, and not going down
Bro.
anytime soon. So we're sweating, and we have friends in LA. Moses, one of them,
Yeah.
that he's they're from the valley. It's hot right now, so my buddies at work obviously are like, "Yo, it's hot." So it's just too hot for all that. But yeah, you're
Mhm.
right. I think it's bad timing. It's just also I just don't. It's gonna. I mean, if I was striking, I'd be like, well, we're striking now, and you just proved our point of like, wait,
Mm.
you raised prices again, and I think it was gonna happen inevitable. That it was gonna happen either at the end of the strike or mid strike. But again, you're really hurting the consumer because again, with inflation and prices going up. Again, I'm trying to get too political here, but it was just like it adds up, and people can't. I mean, if you get to your point too, Nick. Yeah, I mean, I have Netflix. Well, I have Netflix through Zeta's family, luckily. But I know I had friends of family that lost their things because they got locked out. I think they added like another like, oh, you can add $10 more. You can add them to your thing, and I'm like, yeah, but that also adds up. So now you took away the only thing that could have been affordable, which was $10. Ad plan for Netflix. You're just kind of hurting yourself, and also I said this, I think November too. Maybe the first episode of the podcast was that when they did Glass Onion, I was like, still don't get they paid $500 million for those movies when that movie did $500 million in the box office of the first one and a really low budget movie. They bought the rights to those movies, and then we're gonna do it Netflix only. And I was all right. Thinking we're gonna do a 1 week quote unquote wide release, and I was like, okay, how wide is it? And it was like the widest one they've had in their history, which was only like I don't know, maybe 500 screens. I'm like, that's
Mm.
thing compared to like a 3,000 like that Disney and HBO that Warner Brothers and Sony have or Universal has. I'm like, that's nothing. And I mean, to their credit, to their advantage, they made a lot of money in only a week, and then they called it, oh, this is a failure. Nope, this is a failure. Well, you gave it a week, and then you pulled it off the week after after the week it ended. I was like, wait, and they go, it's a failure, it's a failure, it's a failure. And then I'm not a big fan of Ted Sarandos, who's the CEO of Netflix, but he was saying, we shouldn't invest on that. That was a big flop. It was a big flop because it was a big flop because you made money off. You made most money you did in a theatrical release. But
Mm-hmm.
you only gave it only 500 theaters, and then you only give a week thing. You should give at least 2 weeks or leading up to the release on Netflix, which is again it was a month after that on Christmas Day. And I'm just like, that was kind of stupid. And they go, no, we just see this. It proved our point. That didn't prove shit. Like you kind of shot yourself in the foot and said, oh, it's a failure. But there was kind of results that it was working. So that to me is also kind of like blasphemous. But I'll get off my high horse, but I just think it was a really bad time to do all this stuff. I don't know who's going to be next. I know, Showtime just merged with Paramount Plus, and then they're going to be all in one platform. But again, it's not free. You gotta. I want to say maybe it's a few bucks more now. Not a huge jump, but it adds up. Where it's like, well, I used to have Showtime and Paramount Plus separate, and it was kind of like more affordable. Now you're bundling, which is, I guess, it's the same thing, but it's still a price hike. But I don't know. It just, to me, it's like, again, read the room. Bad timing. It's just like, I don't know. It's silly, and I really do hope that these two strikes kind of end quickly so that people go back to work and they can pay rent and pay bills, because like I said, life ain't cheap. So we will see what happens next.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, man. But all right, speaking of, now, as I mentioned, it is Barbenheimer weekend, guys. Again, this is hopefully the weekend that will save the summer box office. Like I said, it's just been miss after miss. I mean, when Guardians 3 came out, they did pretty well. I mean, I do think it wasn't like the best numbers that Marvel had, but it still opened pretty well. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, Guardians was kind of the best Marvel movie in a little bit, bro.
Yeah, there's No Way Home, if you ask me.
What's up?
I think there's No Way Home, if you ask me.
Honestly, yeah. That's a good point. What came out? What happened like right after No Way Home? Because No Way Home was dope, and I remember what was it? Quantumania was after that. Am I missing?
Doctor Strange.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, like Multiverse of Madness.
And Thor.
That's what. Oh my gosh, Thor. Well, I saw that movie like 2 or 3 times in theaters, and I wasn't even really feeling it the first time.
Yeah, we saw it at IMAX opening night, and I was like, they were laughing because we were like, this could have been better.
Yeah, like it's one of those movies, like, it's funny and like it's fun and it's a good movie to kind of chill out to, but coming off of Thor Ragnarok, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame, it's like they kind of pulled a James Gunn for me, like how James Gunn did the Suicide Squad. It's kind of how Taika Waititi did Thor: Love and Thunder. It's good, it's solid, but y'all leaned way too much in the humor.
Yes,
sorry, my shoulder's
way
killing me
too
right
much.
now.
No, way too much.
They leaned way too much in the humor, and also like you can't, bro. Okay, my bad. Let me just get this out real quick.
Do it.
Just as a comic book fan, man, you telling me we got Gore. Not only do we have Gore the God Butcher as the main villain for this Thor movie, bro, I never thought I would see Gore the God Butcher on film, because I don't know if you like read that comic or you just heard about what happened in that comic, but it was originally a very dark story, a very good story, but it was like very dark. So they're like, we got Gore the God Butcher. Okay, interesting. I'm initially thinking like, you can't have. It's got to be a different director and a completely different tone, man. Because Gore the God Butcher, that shit was like, it was depressing, man. Like for like almost all the characters in the story, but they're like, oh yeah, we're Taika Waititi's going to be directing it. I'm like, I don't know about all that, but it's like, okay, well, we got Christian Bale playing Gore. Okay, interesting. Because dude, if Christian Bale was going to do Gore and he was going to do it like legit, just as he was in the comics, that would be amazing. Now, I liked his performance, and I thought he had a solid story in the movie, but it was just kind of it was weak to me. Like, they didn't really take it there, and that's the problem that I have with a lot of comic book films. Like, they don't really take it there. You know what I mean? Like, they don't go as deep into like the emotion or the gravity of the situation as I feel like they should, or even just as they could in general. You know what I mean? Like, Thor: Love and Thunder shouldn't have been a depressing movie, but it shouldn't have been a super lighthearted comedy. Like, I would have treated that like kind of well, I can't think of the movie right now, but like I would have treated it like more mature, had, like you feel the emotional stakes of everything a lot more, because it's basically just an existential movie. You got Thor, who is a god, and the villain is a person that kills gods, and like this dude basically came out of nowhere. Like, Gore the God Butcher, you seen Rocky 3?
Yep. Oh yeah, of course.
So Gore the God Butcher was like, you basically treat him like how they did Clubber Lang
Yeah.
in Rocky 3. This dude not only came out of nowhere, but he just fucked everybody's shit up, and he did it all on his own. That's how you do Gore the God Butcher. So you got that. That's the whole existential thing. Because his thing is, I'm killing all of the gods, and you're telling me like there's gonna be a scene where Thor meets all of the other gods and blah blah blah. Like, dude, I'm picturing just epic fucking scale cosmic, heavy like existential shit again. And so, but all of that was treated for laughs. And it's like, okay, I'm not totally feeling that. And then they're like, oh, we're gonna do the whole Jane Foster as Thor storyline. Okay, interesting, because she had cancer in the comics. So that's another layer of like existential dread. Like, I have this sickness and I can't I don't know what I can do to stop it. And part of the thing in the comics, if I remember correctly, they kind of touched on this in the movie, but in the comics, when she held Thor's hammer, she was like all powerful and muscular and strong and everything like that. But the thing with that was it purged all the chemotherapy out of her body. So whenever she let go of the hammer, the cancer it reset and it kept getting worse. So she like actually had to be Thor in order to survive. And I'm like, that would have been really cool to see again if they just handled it not as a joke,
Yeah.
But my bad about that tangent though. But
That's the show. This is the show.
you're right. So it was No Way Home,
Wakanda
Multiverse of
Forever.
Madness.
Wakanda Forever was a good one. I keep forgetting
Wakanda
about that
Forever
came out.
was fantastic, man. I cried during the movie and then after the movie. I was like, this is too much for me, but it's good though, man. Okay, so No Way Home was dope. Wakanda Forever was dope, and then Guardians Volume 3 was dope. Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, to me, like, it was good, but it was like, yeah, y'all kind of like flubbed up a little bit a couple of times. And then Thor Love and Thunder, like a fun movie, I can watch it and have a good time, but in the back of my head it's just like, like this really should not have been a comedy, man. Like, I'm not saying they should have got like Snyder to direct it, but just someone that can handle like heavier, more dramatic scenes, action scenes, and the whole just comic book kind of feel to it. Someone that can just do like a dark, heavy story, but make it relatively palatable for audiences. Yeah, I think because even like while they were filming it, I seen like some featurettes while they were filming it, and then like sometimes afterwards they were saying like, yeah, man, it's like 7-year-olds made this movie, ha 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 ha, and I'm like, oh hell no, bro, for the Gore the God Butcher storyline, nah, fam,
No,
dude. If Snyder said that while he was making fucking Man of Steel or Justice League BVS, I'd be like, hey, listen, my boy, we got to talk. Like, it's like 7-year-olds did this, and then like you're watching like, oh, this is how we designed the like some of the monsters or the shadow monsters that you saw in the movie, but it's the actors and the directors' kids like just kind of drawing shit, and then they're like, yeah, we can just make that. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but just the kind of nonchalantness of it feels a little bit lazy. Like, yeah, fuck it, we'll do it. I'm like, nah, man, bro. Not after Ragnarok, not after Infinity War, which is, in my opinion, one of his top 3 MCU movies of all time, and
so
definitely
true.
not after Endgame, bro.
So true, man. I think it's been very obvious that post Endgame it has not been the same, because I think for it was 11 years they were consistent. I mean, there's a few hit or misses sometimes, but like for the most part it was very consistent, and I feel like everyone was like, I can't wait for the next one. Yeah, I love all of them, but I did like almost all of them. And I do think they dip in quality, and I think people got. I mean, I'm not gonna say what Bob Iger said about the strike, whatever. That's a different kind of show. But I'm gonna focus on what we said I think it was last week. He said, I think the MCU is not what it used to be. I think I agree with that, and I do.
Yeah.
And I think I've really not been any fan of the Disney Plus shows personally. I don't know about you, but to me, it's just like Bob Iger was saying that it kind of like took away the importance of the MCU itself, and I think that people don't want to do homework now to go see a movie. They don't want to watch all these shows and then to watch this other thing. And I think that's what MCU wasn't at one point, and now with Disney Plus and the expansion of these stories, I think it's really important to have these expansion of stories for aspiring filmmakers, aspiring actors. You can expand the story for sure. With that said, though, I think what Bob, I agree with Bob Iger said. He said I think it kind of like hurt the brand a lot because it was just it's not the same anymore. I think again, quantity over quality was not the right decision. I think it should go back to quality over quantity because
Mm-hmm.
you see stuff like, again, like I said, with like the original, the Infinity Saga with Endgame or Infinity War, like you said, or the first Black Panther, Civil War, Winter Soldier, and again, with exceptions with No Way Home and Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and now with Guardians 3, we still have like kind of parts of that, but it's not the same anymore. It's not the same anymore.
Yeah.
I do think Disney Plus definitely took Disney Plus for sure had a hit to it, and I do think as well as that they weren't the best, like you said too. I am a big Taika Waititi fan. I was kind of Waititi out after Love and Thunder. I was like, I need a break from him because I do like his work, but I saw him in Free Guy before right before that. It was like, all right, it's a lot of him, and I do think that even Sam Raimi too. When Sam Raimi came back, I was like, cool, but I think you and I both said though we were like, damn, Scott Derrickson had that shit in luck, and if you've seen other
Bro.
movies.
Yeah, it's like if you're really trying to do like different shit, then yeah, I should. No disrespect to Sam Raimi, but even with because like Multiverse of Madness was cool, but it did not 100% feel like a Raimi film, and it's like,
No, it didn't.
what's the point of getting? That's like Aladdin and Guy Ritchie, dude. When they said the Guy Ritchie
Yeah.
was directing Aladdin, I was 100% on board. I love the Sherlock Holmes movies, and I like the kind
Yeah.
of you feel. And I'm like, you know what? That would actually kind of, that would be an interesting spin on an Aladdin story. But I'm watching this movie. Hey, anybody could have directed this. It didn't feel like Guy Ritchie to me.
Right. You know what? And that's going to be my point later when I do my review Barbie. That's going to be my thing a little bit down the road. It's
Plus, you got Will Smith doing auto tune, man. Oh, heck no.
Yeah, it's like you bring these directors in, and I think again. I'm not going to rant again, but like we said this before with Kathleen Kennedy and DC at Warner Brothers, you got to trust. You got to let them do their thing. You hire them for their certain vision, let them do their thing. I do think that Kevin Feige was definitely really like allowing I think during the Infinity Saga, I think definitely like they were allowing them do their thing, but then you can't get too comfortable or again, I think what I heard was like it was too dark for Scott Derrickson version. And I'm like, well, he delivered you a great first movie, and then he did Black Phone afterwards, and Black Phone was awesome. I think Black Phone was a really original and great black horror movie, and I was like, that worked. So why can you just
like Black Phone was dope, and to your point about it, because you said someone said like the Derrickson version might have been a little bit too dark. Yeah, if it's damn, how do I say this? If you're gonna hire a director kind of based on what they've done in the past, you got to let them do that. Now, because Kevin Feige and to an extent Disney, like this is kind of the type of stories we want to tell. Yeah, you like hire the director, let them do their thing, but still kind of keep them within the framework that you're trying to set up. Sure, but don't make it so that the film is indistinguishable from any other director. Like if Derrickson wanted to do a horror movie, here's what they could have done, right? Because also I know like the pandemic kind of fucked up some of the release dates of these movies, but
huge.
You got Derrickson. He did the first Doctor Strange, and like you got kind of little. This kind of feels like a Derrickson movie, but like it seems like there's some Disney mandates going on in here, like that little Beyonce reference and some of the humors. I'm kind of like, I'm not feeling that, my boy. But you could use that as like, Derrickson, we got to kind of restrain you just a little bit because this is only the first Doctor Strange movie, and we're kind of testing the waters because also this is a character that hasn't been on the silver screen yet. Okay, bet. Here's Doctor Strange. Here's the first one. And then when it's time for the next one, let him do a little bit more of his thing. Let him delve into like what makes Scott Derrickson.
Right.
You feel me? Like,
right.
Let him tell a story where maybe the main villain is that nightmare character and it's trippy, more horrific stuff. Like, don't let him make a rated R Doctor Strange movie. I'm not saying all of that, but like let him just kind of like put some more of that Derrickson flavor in there, but still try to tie it in with the overall narrative that you're trying to tell. But because it's like them switching him out for Raimi. It just kind of it feels like what was the point? It didn't even always feel
Right.
like there were certain points where it felt like a Raimi film, but that's the thing. It's certain points. It didn't just feel like generally. Bet okay, Sam Raimi made this movie. I can tell just by watching it. And I only knew that because
Yeah.
they have been saying it. So and it's like they didn't even let him really just go full Raimi. And with the Doctor Strange movie too, bro, that would have been fucking fire. So I don't. Oh man.
What could have been, right? What could
Got
have
my
been?
blood pressure all up, man. Jeez Louise.
I wish we had like a sponsor to do like, yeah, speaking of blood pressure, but we don't. But not there yet, guys. But yeah, man,
Wait.
it could have been what could have been, and I do think that like Sam Raimi delivered some really good stuff with this with the OG Spider-Man trilogy, and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like Evil Dead, Drug Me to Hell, a lot of like iconic stuff. Minus the Wizard of Oz prequel. That shit was boo boo AF.
Was it with James Franco?
Oh god, dude, I saw that in high school with my brother, and I was like,
Yo,
yeah, I was like, yep, this isn't for me, Chief.
I, I saw it. I was just kind of like, I'm like, what is going on here? Like, because
Yeah.
in the Wizard of Oz, in the first one, it was like, okay, maybe it was just a dream. But then and spoilers for those of y'all who haven't seen Sam Raimi's Oz the Great and Powerful. But the first one, it's like, okay, it was all a dream. But then it's a prequel, and the guy actually did go there. I was kind of like, hold on, because also like all the characters are played by this. All the characters in the Land of Oz are played by the same actors in like the real like sepia tone world. I was because like I remember like what's his name? Zach Braff was a monkey or some shit.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I'm watching it. I'm kind of like he's interacting with this monkey. I'm like, do you not recognize that that's your best friend's voice? You don't think that's weird at all or what? It was just kind of, I'm like, yeah, y'all didn't need to make this movie. And Mila Kunis as the Green Witch Cap. I don't see that at all, bro.
Dude, I can't even. I honestly I remember that. That's it. But if you like put me in interrogation, you go, "What happened to Oz the Great and the Powerful?" I couldn't tell you anything. It's been what over 10 years now. So that
Bro,
movie once, I just forgot about that movie entirely. All that I'm saying, this movie sucked. I remember walking out like that movie sucked. That's all I remember of that movie whatsoever. I was like, "Yep, not for me, Chief." But again,
yeah,
I just trust your filmmakers. Trust your filmmakers. You hire them for a reason. And you
yeah.
heard me. You heard us rant before in other episodes. Whether it's Warner Brothers and David Ayer, or Kathleen Kennedy and Phil Lord, Chris Miller, or Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder, as we all know too. Trust your filmmakers. You
Mm-hmm.
can you always have disagreements, but when you get too when you get too reactionary, you don't get good results. You get stuff that's very mid, or you gotta have input. Always have input for sure. Always have input, but don't be like, don't micromanage. Again, I'm not a filmmaker. We're not studio heads, whatever. But I
Yeah.
just feel like it's a less stressful time when you're not micromanaging people, or just kind of interfering on time, because we're all creative artists. We're all artists here and creative people here. It's when you get people to do their thing, it really shows like, wow, this person has a lot of talent, a lot of creation, to a lot of creative aspects to them. Let them do the thing. But again, we don't live in a perfect world. But I hope that maybe post strike that we're gonna see more people trusting their filmmakers and let them do their thing, because I think that we've seen with director cuts and extended cuts, it works. It works, and it has good results too. Not some kind of boo boo crap. Nothing kind of like, oh, this movie was awful. No, it shows results. So when in doubt, I feel like have input, but also just trust your creative vision. It's why we're all collaborators. Why we all collaborate in creative and filmmaking and entertainment, because it's a collaborative art no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But anyways, so now back to it though. Box office wise, yes, it's been a very piss poor summer of
Yes.
stuff flopping. I saw Indiana Jones, saw Fast. I saw Fast right before it came out, and we were like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, it's probably gonna do well," and it did for a Fast movie. It did modestly well. There was better. I think other movies did well better. Like I think Fate and Seven and 6 5 did a lot better, but internationally, these movies are a huge hit. A huge hit.
Mm-hmm.
It really just like it's like it was a really big hit. But I was like, all right, cool. Little Mermaid did modestly well. Didn't hear much about it box office wise after it kind of came out. And it was again Transformers and Flash, and then Indy did not too well, and then Mission Impossible did pretty well for the most part. They were kind of hoping Top Gun numbers, but I think they released it kind of weird. It was like midweek. They didn't know about it midweek, and they came out on Friday and the weekend. So if you look at the box office, look at the 5 day production, 5 day gross, because that's the real estimate. So now with this is the summer, this is the weekend that you got Barbie and Oppenheimer coming, the last two big movies coming out for the summer. I've seen both of them, luckily. So I'm gonna start with Oppenheimer first. I think Chris Nolan deserves to go first. I love Greg Gerwig and I love Margot Robbie, I love Ryan Gosling, but I think Oppenheimer is the one that I was kind of looking forward to more, given the nature of it, given Christopher Nolan as a filmmaker. This, for starters, too, I think you and I both agree we're Chris Nolan fans, but unlike some people we interacted with in college,
we're Nolan fans like up to a point. Like we fuck with his movies 100%. They're dope. He's an amazing filmmaker, a legendary filmmaker, but
legendary.
Unlike some of those people from college that you just mentioned, we don't think he needs to be directing every single movie. He's not the end all be all like director. I don't think, even in my opinion, there's no filmmaker that just is like, oh, he or she is just the greatest at everything filmmaking related. It's not like that, but like he's that guy low key. You know what I mean? Like he definitely kills it every time.
Yeah, no, he puts on he's a just amazing director. He's an amazing filmmaker. He really does. But there's some things that like movies that I don't really care for. Like it's good, whatever, sure. Like for example, before I do my review, I think Dunkirk's a very, we saw that in college. That movie's a very well made movie. Again, we saw it on 70mm film, and that was a really cool experience too. But I couldn't tell you anyone's character's name or really kind of what happened at times, because it didn't stick with me as much as maybe like a Dark Knight or Interstellar did, or a Tenet, if you ask me. I just didn't feel invested in that. So going in, like I was kind of like, okay, coming off Tenet, which I love Tenet, by the way. I think we saw that during the pandemic at the drive-in.
Sure did.
And that was, I loved that movie for different reasons, because I think it was definitely like, it was a cool, more like Inception kind of base. It was kind of like him doing James Bond. And I thought him casting John David Washington was just brilliant casting.
That's what sold me on the movie right there. I'm like, okay, bad. Because also at that point, I hadn't even seen John David Washington in anything yet. I saw Tenet, and then you told me about Ballers. So then after Tenet, I basically just binged Ballers. I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it now, Nolan.
Dude, and I remember your article, like why he casted him, because he casted him because of BlacKkKlansman, which I think is probably my favorite, if not my favorite, Spike Lee movie. And I don't really know too much. I know he was Denzel's son. I know he played football professionally at one point. But I was like, okay, cool. And I remember seeing the trailer for BlacKkKlansman, and I was like, Spike Lee's kind of hit or miss for me sometimes. I think his most recent stuff wasn't as good as stuff like Do the Right Thing, and Malcolm X and Inside Man. But I was like, this kid has chops. Who is this kid? And I was like, it's Denzel's kid. And I was like, well, that makes sense. It's a very talented family. Denzel's the GOAT. And I was like, okay, cool. That was really cool seeing that. Cool. I'm into it. Then I heard that, he cast him because of BlacKkKlansman, but Christopher Nolan said, I'm a big fan of Ballers. And I said, no way. Christopher Nolan watches the show Ballers. Get the hell out of here. I said, get the hell out of here. And I was like, yep, I am a fan of Ballers. And again, it was really smart on him for casting a great actor like John David Washington, but also like he was an up and coming talent, where it kind of gave him a name, kind of like, I guess I am my dad's son, but I'm not a nepo baby. I really did I earned this. I really did earn this role. And I remember reading hearing an article about it, and he was just saying like, I was so happy. I wanted this role more than anything in my life. This is what I wanted the most. And I'm like, good for him. He manifested it and he got it. So I love Tenet. But anyway, so again, going to Oppenheimer, I was kind of like, it's another historical movie. I don't care for Dunkirk as much. It's well made, but I was like, I don't know. We'll see. Starting with the pros, I think this movie is a masterclass in filmmaking and acting. Truly everyone, and I mean everyone's on top of their game, from direction to cinematography to production design to acting. It really is like, wow, this is why we go to the movies. This is why filmmaking exists, because everyone bringing their A game. Cillian Murphy, I think I remember seeing Cillian Murphy the first time in Scarecrow in Batman Begins, and it was very kind of like, he had something kind of like, I don't know, some kind of weirdly about him that like made you kind of remember his face. It was maybe because of his, his jawline or, his cheekbones, but he really did a good job with scarecrows because it really felt like something new, but also it was like, who is this guy? I don't know who he was before, and he stuck with me a lot as a kid when he as Scarecrow. I was like, that shit was scary, and again, it just as a performance as an actor, I was like, oh, that's the guy from that's Scarecrow from Batman Begins.
Right.
This is his movie, man. Like literally, this is his movie. I think this is like, I haven't seen Peaky Blinders. I know Joel will kill me if I tell him that they tell me this day. Like, you should watch Peaky Blinders yet? This is really his movie. I think it truly showcases his talents and utilizes him as a leading man for once. I think we've seen before in lost like, I think he was definitely a co-leading man in Quiet Place too. But this was kind of like for me personally, this was kind of his first real time as a leading man in a big movie like this. Again, I think he was in Inception, he was in Dunkirk, he was in Batman Begins and the Dark Knight trilogy. But to me, this is my first time seeing him in a really big tentpole movie, spectacle movie that he's a leading man. And by God, man, he really kills it. He's a phenomenal actor, and I was like, he owns this role. And also too, it really blows me away that he's a really really thick Irish accent. Didn't slip up once in this 3-hour movie. I was like, good on him, man. He had a good
Really?
dialect, dude. I swear, man, good dialect coach. Because I was like, wow, I was very impressed that like he sounded like Oppenheimer. Like he had like the voice down to a crisp, and I was like, wow, good
Like
on this
the
dude.
inflections and everything.
Everything, man. I watched a little
Okay.
video after the screening of like Oppenheimer stuff, and I was like, dude, Cillian Murphy did a fucking fantastic job of like really doing a good like not impersonation, but kind of like just really doing like a good job of just like embodying him as a person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was I wanted to see Oppenheimer before, but Doug, you made me want to see it even more now. Like it's on my list. I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but you got me more excited to actually watch it, man.
Dude, yeah, no, and I'll tell you why too. So the other reasons why. Also, Robert Downey Jr., man, this is his kind of first real role post Iron Man and Avengers. I'm not gonna mention Doolittle, even though I just did. 'Cause her movie was awful, like god awful. Yeah, boy, I've heard nothing
Man,
but
ain't
worse
no one
things.
talking about that movie anymore, man.
No, that movie
Uh-uh.
had delayed for years. Had so many different writers. Dude, Robert Downey Jr., I think this might be his one, if not his best performance too. It's a supporting role, but man, I watch him. I'm like, I don't see Iron Man anymore. I see this guy. He's played this guy named I think, Struss, who was kind of like during the time post atomic bomb was created, post Trinity test. He was just like, whoa. He was really into this. But watching Robert Downey Jr., I'm like, he's a phenomenal actor. I mean, we all know good Tropic Thunder and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and other movies too. But like, past decade or so, he's been Iron Man for most people. But I think it was smart in him to get out of the Iron Man spotlight for now for his career
Hmm.
and really do something great with this role. And by God, man, he kills it too. I think he was just as good, if not better, than Cillian Murphy because Downey has for even a small amount of screen time compared to other characters. Really, man, Downey Jr. owns this role and gives a phenomenal performance. While I was like, this is what Chris Nolan does. He gets performance out of people like this and really kind of shows them like how talented I am outside of my normal kind of like genre, which for him it was Iron Man for a while. I'll tell you what, Nick, you have, and I repeat, I'll see it again with you. You have to see this movie, bro, on 70 millimeter 143 IMAX. You and I have seen a lot of IMAX stuff in our times, but this stuff for us, for our listeners, we're in the Phoenix area. We have really one true IMAX, which is the Arizona Mills IMAX here in Tempe. Nick and I have seen the Avengers, all the Marvel movies, Blade Runner, all stuff in IMAX. This to me really because it's the first time that AZ, I think this is the first time AZ Mills is doing this in Dark Knight. It's the full top to bottom IMAX, dude. Full
Hmm.
143, ceiling to bottom, dude. We have seen we still have IMAX movies there, but we only saw the 190 ratio, not the full 143. This
Are,
is the first time we're seeing the 143 at AZ Mills IMAX, our personal IMAX theater that we go to.
are they still? How long are they going to be showing it at that IMAX? 'Cause I might have to just hop on over there tomorrow.
Thir- Good luck. A lot of them are sold out. A lot of them are sold out.
Oh,
Um, I was in the front. I'll text you after the show so what we can do. But yeah, dude, it's literally for 3 weeks only
damn.
for the first time at our IMAX 143 70 millimeter film. This is the first time that our IMAX is doing it. So I was what the first. Okay, I heard our theater can do 143 finally because I saw stuff like the Tenet there. I saw the movies there. Games like Blade Runner there. Saw Top Gun there. It wasn't the full or Nope was there. I never saw the full 143. It is literally, bro, top to bottom IMAX. The entire screen is covered with footage, and I was like,
Wow.
I was immersed, dude. And I was like, I wish we got in that in other movies, but I guess Harkins May didn't have the, I don't know, maybe the clearances, whatever. But if you can see this movie in 143 IMAX, to our listeners, to you, Nick, and 70 millimeter film, it is beautiful. It is beautiful. It brought tears to my eyes at times. I'm like looking at how amazing this is. I'm like, wow, this is literally filmmaking at its finest. Like Chris Nolan knows what to do, and I'm hoping more movies for our personal IMAX will do the 143 like Dune 2. I'm praying do the way 143 for Dune 2 because man, I think we got some really cool 190 ratio IMAX movies there. But I'm telling you, Nick, we have never experienced like this before. Maybe I have in Dark Knight in Chicago 15 years ago, but truly, man, it is the first time that our IMAX theater is doing the 143, and it is literally top to bottom. The entire screen is covered for certain scenes. Not the whole movie, unfortunately, but certain scenes. So
Okay.
if you see this movie in 70 millimeter IMAX 143, it is beautiful. It is beautiful. It's the only way to see this movie 100%. It is incredible. Matt Damon, Florence Pugh, Josh Hartnett, David Krumholtz, and a bunch of other supporting actors have great performances. And I was kind of like, it's gonna be kind of like gimmick. Like, oh, look at this actor, look at this actor, look at this actor, like Josh Peck. Oh, look at Jack Quaid. All the smaller actors, even though I won't call them cameos, they're very smaller performances, but really all of them they play a big part of the movie overall. It could be a few scenes here and there, but their meaning, their character meaning, has a really big importance to the entire movie whatsoever. I'm like, that's very smart to have these definitely noticeable actors. They really play a big part of the movie whatsoever. I do like the use of black and white because they're not used for flashback scenes. They're kind of used for flash forward scenes. And I was like, huh, interesting. It's my first time seeing a 70 millimeter black and white film and an IMAX black and white film. And it was very cool to see how they did it with, like, instead of the flashback, it was flash forward black and white. Very kind of cool technical filmmaking aspect that he did. Like I said before, it's a better historical drama than Dunkirk, if you ask me. I felt more invested in the character and the story. I knew people's names finally. Because Dunkirk, it was like Harry Styles plays soldier number 3 question mark. We didn't know their names, and I was like, okay, I just didn't know anyone's names, so it was cool knowing their names this time.
I'll be honest with you. I don't even remember Harry Styles in that movie. Like, I know that
Exactly.
objectively, I know that he was in the movie, but up until Dunkirk, I wasn't really exposed to Harry Styles at all, so I didn't know what he looked like. So I was kind of like, I watched the movie like, wow, okay. Like,
Yeah.
I recognize, Tom Hardy and Kenneth
Exactly.
Branagh and everybody, but I was like, who the fuck? Like, I know that he was in. I know that he was in One Direction, but again, I did not follow that group at all. So I'm like, okay, like, and I remember it was like, yo, Harry Styles is in a Nolan movie. I'm like, the guy from One Direction. Okay, cool, I guess, but it was still like, what's he look like?
Which one is it? Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
which one of these white British dudes is Harry Styles? I think that one. I even I was like, who's that? Who's who again? And I was like,
Yeah.
but my point exactly. And also, I'll ask you this: Do you remember Kenneth Branagh or Tom Hardy's characters' names? Because I don't.
I remember two scenes with them. I remember Tom Hardy was in a plane, and I remember Kenneth Branagh was on a boat. Actually, no, with Tom Hardy, there was one scene, I think it was at the end, which I just thought this was a cool shot. It was
Yeah,
him standing on the beach. His plane was in flames, bars. But like Kenneth Branagh, I'm like, nah, like I was like, Kenneth Branagh's in this movie too, dang.
yeah.
But no, I embarrassed to say I don't remember none of their names. And like I feel not like bad about saying this. Like Dunkirk, it was a good movie. Like technically, it was made well, and it's
Yeah.
Nolan. Like Nolan doesn't really do bad movies, but this movie just overall, it wasn't as impactful to me. I didn't feel like it. Kind of just felt like a historical drama. It didn't really feel like oh wow, I can't wait to see what he does with this movie because he has
Right.
really creative ideas like Inception, Tenet, Interstellar,
Yes.
stuff like that. Like that's like wow,
Prestige, Memento.
yeah, like it's like wow, that's some interesting. It's like those are like interesting concepts, but like Dunkirk just kind of felt like maybe if I rewatch it, I'll feel differently. But it kind of just felt like this is some stuff that happened in World War II.
Yeah. No. It. Yeah, no, it's something that I own most of his movies, and honestly, I own Dunkirk, but I'm like, I never like really go back and watch. I watch Dunkirk again. I'm like, yeah, it's on, it's on. But I'm not gonna go out of my way to watch it. But I do think that
I would flip the channel. Fuck that.
yeah, I'd be like, yeah, next. I was like, I rather put on, I rather put on Dark Knight, Interstellar, Tenet, Inception, in a heartbeat, in a
Yes.
heartbeat. So with it, like I said, it was really cool that this was definitely historical drama for Nolan, but I felt more invested in the characters and the story, what was going on. A little convoluted at times, but I still felt invested. I think
Mm-hmm.
the sound mixing on this is very better. I think with Tenet, it was hard to hear dialogue sometimes. But not his fault. He wanted the full IMAX experience, which I get. But the sound mixing was definitely better in this one. I think better than this. I think even Dunkirk too was kind of loud. You couldn't hear like even people yelling on the beach. I was like, what are they saying? It just felt like it was kind of like not mixed well. This had better mixing. But overall,
Mm-hmm.
man, this movie really is a. Before we get to the cons, I definitely feel this movie is one. I won't say it's no one's best movie personally, but I do say it's very worth seeing in theaters because the acting and the technical filmmaking, the IMAX, the photography is really beautiful. And Ludwig Göransson's score. Ludwig did Tenet, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Black Panther, the first Black Panther, a lot of great scores. There's so much added to it. Like this feels like a really spectacle Hollywood drama, but you feel so intrigued by the acting, the storytelling, everything. And I was like, I was really sitting, I was blown away of like just watching this movie on the big on the IMAX. I was like, wow, this acting is a masterclass in all of it. But like I said, now to the cons. For a 3 hour movie, it's long, and
Mm.
at first I was like, okay, the pace was not too bad. All right, okay, it's fine. But then it picked up a lot too in the middle. But then after a day thinking about it, I was like, ooh, the pace kind of bothered me a little bit more. Instead of my out of theater reaction, that the pace didn't bother me as much. Thinking back on it, it kind of bothered me a little bit because it was like he wants to cram in a lot of stuff, not a lot of stuff, but like he wants to introduce a lot of stuff. But definitely give it time to like, hey, let it breathe, let it digest. It's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of things happen, a lot of setup, a lot of like setup for like what's going to happen later on. Though too long, I think there's times where it could have been trimmed a bit, like most of his movies too. I think all of his movies, there are times where it could have been trimmed a bit. Where like I guess it's been a little bit tighter here and there, but overall, it definitely felt a little long at times, but it didn't bother me too much. Like some of the other movies I've seen this past year. I also too, I love Emily Blunt. I think she's one of my favorite actresses. She's amazing. I think she's amazing in Looper, Edge of Tomorrow. I think she's a great Mary Poppins. I didn't feel the chemistry between her and Cillian Murphy at all. She plays his wife, Kitty Oppenheimer. I don't feel. I don't really feel the chemistry, and when they're on screen together, it just didn't kind of feel kind of stale at times.
Mm.
Not her. I won't say her performance is bad. I think her performance is really good. There was no chemistry. I didn't find the chemistry between the two of them. And I do think they could have used her more. She's in a lot of scenes, but she's kind of like not utilized as much as I wanted her to be. I was like, yo, you have a phenomenal actress here. I think an Oscar nominated actress too. That you could have used a lot of her more, or used her kind of angle as his wife and the mother of his two children. And I do wish they kind of utilized more. I mean, you have a great actress here. You could have done a lot more with her, but that's kind of me deciding saying, as like a big fan of her. I do. Okay, again, as an IMAX fanboy, I am an IMAX, like kiss asser for sure. I've seen this before in Michael Bay movies and maybe some of the Marvel movies too. If you're gonna use IMAX fully. There's a lot of scenes where it would be like a quick, like 1 second to 1 or 2 second tops, a quick look at something in the full IMAX thing, and then back to the regular aspect ratio, and it's kind of like quick glimpse back to the normal ratio. And I'm like, yeah, just use the full IMAX, use the full IMAX. Then don't do a little quick 1 second full screen of IMAX and go back to it because I know for Transformers 5 I did that and my head was killing me that time. I was like,
Yeah, because
other
also
reasons too.
like also all of that back and forth, it's a little distracting. So
Yes,
like I'm
yes.
not saying necessarily any movie should do this, but I do kind of wonder what would it be like if an entire film was just filmed in IMAX. Have they done that before?
Yeah, we saw Endgame Infinity War was something fully, well, not full. It's not fully. It was 190. So it was something IMAX. So yes, you and I have seen Blade Runner 2049 example. That was the 190 IMAX. We have seen that, and that was No Way Home example too. That was fully 190. So
Hmm.
we have seen not the full, but we have seen an IMAX. We have seen IMAX versions of movies that was completely full in IMAX, and it
Okay.
works. And it works. I think No Way Home did well. Blade Runner 2049. Infinity War Endgame used it very well too because it was the 190. It didn't change at all, which was very smart on them. But when you do certain scenes in IMAX, I think Jordan put a good job of balancing both of them. It wasn't like a quick shot and that was it. But I think
Mm-hmm.
Nolan has done this before. Michael Bay's done this before, and I think maybe Top Gun may have done it too, where the quick 1 second shot, boom, back. It's distracting. It's like just use it, use it. So that again, I'm an IMAX a lover, IMAX appreciator. That kind of bothered me a little bit, a little nitpicky, I know. And I'll end on this too. They really said, "Oh, Albert Einstein, this and that." They mentioned him a lot, and he's in the movie. He's in the movie for sure. But to me, it was just like you had him there just because like he's like a historical, huge historical figure.
Mm.
It was interesting, but I don't think that was fully developed because he was in certain scenes. I was like, well, he's just there. He's kind of being an old man, basically. And I was like, oh, come on, Nolan. I think Nolan knows how to write better dialogue. I mean, not bad dialogue, but it was just like, I think he could have developed him a bit more because he's a really important historical figure. But it just really felt like, yeah, just throw him in there because he was around at the time. He had some kind of connection to Oppenheimer. I don't feel like it could have. I feel like you could have mentioned him maybe off screen, not include him because he really didn't add anything to the movie. The ending might have. I might be mindful different about the ending, how he's included in it, but I don't. I think he could have been. I think he could have been written out or just mentioned off screen because he didn't really add anything for me.
Mm.
But
Okay.
with that said, I don't again. It's not his best movie personally. I do feel like Tenet, Interstellar, Dark Knight, Inception are better movies. I will
Mm.
say that if you're a Chris Nolan fan, if you're a filmmaking fan, you're an IMAX fan, you're a fan of any of these actors, see this in IMAX, see this on the big screen possible, see this in theaters because this movie really is made for the theaters. If you wait to watch it on whatever Apple TV, streaming, VOD, you're doing yourself a disservice because this movie's meant for the big screen like how most of his movies do. So I will give this movie a solid 8 out of 10. I do have problems with it. But overall, it was something that I was looking forward to, and it definitely met my expectations. I'm so glad I saw this in IMAX. So glad I saw it in theaters because I had a great time with it. Despite my flaws, I thought this movie was phenomenal, and it's definitely worth the watching in theaters.
Cool. Yeah, I'm definitely
So
gonna see it.
yeah, dude,
100%.
you gotta see it in IMAX. It's literally an experience like no other. Um, so with that, again, before I do my Barbie review, let's do this. Favorite Chris Nolan movie, my friend, out of all his filmography, what's the movie that you go back to almost? If you had to choose a movie over and over again, which movie would you pick from Nolan's filmography?
If I could only pick one Christopher Nolan movie, like my absolute top favorite, I gotta go with Tenet because you had brought this up
Yeah,
earlier. John David Washington, that's my boy. He's never done a bad performance in my opinion. And seeing him as the lead, first off, seeing a black man in as the lead in a Nolan film, that was really cool. Plus,
yes,
it's time travel. I love time travel stuff.
me
Like,
too.
bro, like that's my favorite. Like, especially when it's done right. And not only was it done right in this movie, but it was done in a way that I hadn't seen it before because like it would be easy to kind of just look at it and say, okay, well, some of this shit is just moving in reverse and that's the whole thing. But no, like they break it down in the movie. It's not that it's moving in reverse. We're just perceiving it in reverse. Like everything is still kind of
Yeah,
moving in a natural way. Everything's moving the way it's supposed to be moving, but it's just kind of like out, we're looking at it from a different from a different angle basically. So I thought that was really interesting, and it's funny too that you brought up Oppenheimer because if I remember correctly, they referenced Oppenheimer
I did.
in Tenet. So I remember there was I seen like something on YouTube, like it was this theory, like, oh man, like Oppenheimer is it's a secret prequel to Tenet because like yeah, within the movie they said like Oppenheimer did his thing and then yada 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 later on someone else invented like time travel, but it was kind of like in a way like because of Oppenheimer or something like that, or it was like kind of like um a similar event as Oppenheimer. Like they both did this thing and it basically kind of just it changed everything. And this one thing that they did was the most dangerous thing, or at least one of the most dangerous things in human history. So I thought that was really cool. But no, yeah, Tenet. I love that movie. That's my favorite Nolan movie by far.
Dude, it's so good. Yeah, dude. I mean, I was struggling to pick my favorite one this week. I was going back and forth. Like, I love Tenet, I love Interstellar, I love Dark Knight. But I'm like, oh, I agree. I think him. It's also too. I love him using new talent, him using young talent. I think he knew that really well with stuff like with Christian Bale when he was not young, but like when he's kind of up and coming for that. Leo
Yeah.
DiCaprio obviously was established, but then like you got stuff like Jessica Chastain, a lot of actors, but I feel like yes, you have this is his first movie with a black lead. Who are you gonna pick? You picked a phenomenal actor with John David Washington, and again, I remember being in London. I heard the news. I was like, yes, Chris Nolan, yes, 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 yes. As a fan of Ballers and a fan of Black Klansman, I was like, this dude can act. You picked a phenomenal actor.
Mm-hmm.
It was such again. It also too is that I think what Tenet did so well too is that him and Johnny Washington worked so well because he's kind of playing a Bond in a way of like a
Yeah,
Bond if
it
Nolan's
was
running
it was a Nolan James Bond movie.
right.
So
It was
that's cool in that aspect also.
it was a very modern take on a. Again, I love Daniel Craig movies for sure, his Bond movies, but for Tenet kind of felt like really a modern day Bond with time travel and espionage and science fiction. And it was just again, you really did a great job making that kind of like a voice of our generation. I feel like picking John David Washington as your leading man. But it's definitely up there. I'm going back and forth all week, man. I'm trying to pick which one my favorite one. I love Interstellar for many reasons too. I saw that movie 7 millimeter with some friends in high school. That was an experience like no other. But I was robbed of seeing that in IMAX. I remember my dad, my brother, and I went to go a college tour. Actually, we got to the theater. It was like, "Yep, first row only," and I was like, "Oh!" And then the week after, it was already gone. I was like, "No."
Oh damn.
I was like, no, I was so bummed, dude. And I'm hoping IMAX brings movies like this back to like theaters. I would love to see Interstellar in IMAX. I heard that was just an experience like no other. And I was like, damn it. But I think Tenet was my number two. I know it's gonna be cliche, and I would beg to say, but Dark Knight, and here's why. Here's why. Again, it's very kind of really Dark Knight, common choice. I remember being 10 years old when that movie came out, and my dad really wait. My dad like it was because he was shot in Chicago. I remember living by where some of it was filmed. I remember the car where he crashed the Lamborghini.
Mhm.
The car that was near my building growing up in Chicago. So I was like, this movie was like cool. It was filmed in my neighborhood basically. This was like movie was filmed in my city. And like, that's the reason why I love that movie too. But I remember just like hearing how Heath Ledger this now it's crazy, Oh my gosh, this is so different. And then I remember my dad. I learned this from him. He did not want to take me to some movie in the regular format. He goes, "We're gonna see this movie in IMAX." Because you hear all this. The first movie shot. It was the first movie ever. Sorry, first Hollywood narrative movie to shoot in IMAX cameras. Chris Nolan was the first one to do it. Because before it was used in like documentaries about the sea and nature and Titanic or whatever, but this was the first Hollywood mainstream narrative feature to use IMAX cameras. And my dad was like, "You know what? I'm gonna take Doug to IMAX. I'm gonna wait." We waited like a few weeks, by the way, too, to see this movie in IMAX. And by God, it was worth the wait. Because I remember seeing the full 143 whole screen. I was like, "This is 10-year-old me." I was like, "This is so different." I was like, "What am I watching? This is really different." The heist scene, obviously, it was like, wow. As a kid, the Joker scared the shit out of me, and then even the sound in Hans Zimmer's score, like that little sharp razor, the
Yo, that score
noise,
had me fucked up as a kid, man. I was like, yo, what the hell is going on?
right? And I remember, again, I'll admit this. As a kid, I was like, "Oh my god, I can't look at this." But it goes, how him and Michael J. White when he gets his goon, when he gets his squad, those guys, he goes,
Uh-huh.
he puts the knife in the mouth. I was like, oh no, 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 no. As a kid, I was like, I can't see. But it just really stuck with me as a kid. I was like, oh my god, 10 years old. I was like, oh my god, this is different. I never felt like this before. I mean, maybe Spider-Man 2 for sure. But as
Oh
a
yeah.
kid, I was like, I knew I was watching something different at 10 years old. I was like, this is different before. And then seeing when the truck flips in IMAX and seeing,
That was
when,
dope.
when
That
he
was
throw
incredible.
right, all practical too. Seeing him throw Joker off the tower. It was just to me, I was like, as a kid, I was just like, this is so different. And then obviously Harvey Dent's the makeup. It was like as a kid, it creeped me out. I don't know about you. I was like, ooh. I was like,
I loved it because I'm like, no, that actually because in the cartoons, whenever like he becomes Two-Face, like in the animated series with Kevin Conroy, rest in peace, like his face was like half light blue and the that lip was kind of like sticking up a lot. You could see his teeth, and it's like that's a cool design. I'm not sure I understand how that happened by getting blown up in the face. Like I don't why would it turn your skin blue like that, but whatever. And then the Tommy Lee Jones version, which is the first version of Two-Face I'd ever seen,
Yeah.
That like he had a really cool and fun design, and like you see him and like instantly like, okay, I get it, it's Two-Face, and like it's like duality and juxtaposition and blah 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 blah. But in the flashback there, like when they were saying like, oh, this is how he became Two-Face, and it was like, yeah, someone threw some acid in his face. And even as a little kid, bro, like I'm looking at the screen and I'm like, the way the acid was thrown in his face, how would it perfectly
Right.
go down like vertically down his body? I'm like, wouldn't it just, it
True.
looked like it hit him, like he would be scarred for sure, but also it's like it only hit his face, so why is like his hair pink too? Like
Right.
I was like, I don't get this. I used to piss my mom off with shit like that because I'd be like, well, mom, why does he do this? And she's like, Nick, it's a fucking Batman movie, bro. Relax. She's like, just
But
watch the shit.
this
I'm
is
like, I
why
can't.
this is why I went to film school, and now we're filmmakers and writers.
Hell
This
yeah.
is
But
you
also
knew.
no, yeah, like also to your point though, like just the design of Two-Face in the Dark Knight, like that's my favorite design of him. That's my favorite like kind of visual representation of him because I'm like, yeah, like it's very real world, and I'm like, I buy that. Like half the face got burnt off, and like they still even like the way you see his teeth, like the way the mouth is kind of shaped in that area, it's still true to the comics because in
Yeah.
the comics like he would like have that part of the lip there, but that part of the lip would always be sticking up. So I like how Chris Nolan did like a very realistic version of it, and they're like it's not acid that like changed the color of his skin and his hair.
Right.
This motherfucker's a burn victim, bro. He's like, you're in agonizing pain, but the doctor say you don't want to accept skin grafts. So I'm like, so when I'm like watching this movie, I'm like, yo, he is on one, man. Like that's some like this man has some fucking like black Air Force One energy. Like half my
Yeah.
face is burnt off. I can't blink in this eye, but I'm still like when he took the shot of that like that brandy or whatever the fuck was at that bar. I'm like realistically, you can't drink that without just being in excruciating pain, bro. I'm like, okay, but it was dope. I liked how they did Two-Face basically. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, it just was. It just really was like as a kid, it just stuck with me. And I think, and like I said, it's the score too. Hans Zimmer score at the end, Gary Oldman performance, Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox is still brilliant casting. It's just everything in that movie just worked so well. And again, I know people are like it's an easy choice. I just I remember the movie stuck with me so well, and even as a 25-year-old now, the movie sticks with me to this day. But I do say Tenet is slowly. It was Interstellar for a while too. Interstellar was kind of creeping up there because I
Interstellar
loved
though. And
Murph.
if Tenet didn't exist, if he never made Tenet, Interstellar would be my number one.
Right. And that's what I was. It started creeping up for a while too, and I was like, yeah, it's up there, it's up there. And I was like, yeah, I love Interstellar for sure, but Tenet, especially, I remember seeing. I think my dad and I went to the Star Wars Episode 9 opening night, whatever, together. And I love when Chris Nolan did this back in the day. He would, if a big movie was coming out, months ahead, he would show you a 5 to 6 minute, or maybe a little bit more, maybe 5 to 6 minute prologue of the movie. So back in the
Mhm.
day when I Am Legend came out in 2007, people saw that movie in IMAX, got to see the heist Dark Knight before anyone else, the full Dark Knight heist moment in IMAX before anyone else, and that was coming soon. Or remember, it was 2011 with Dark Knight Rises, the scene with being on the plane. If you saw Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol on IMAX, you would see the full prologue, the plane scene of Dark Knight Rises, and I think with Rogue One was Dunkirk, and then I remember Star Wars Episode 9, it was Tenet. I knew nothing. I knew that David Washington it was North by Northwest meets Inception. And I remember seeing the prologue for 6 minute prologue for Tenet, and I said, now. I was like, now. I want to see it now. It was, listen, I'm
Mhm.
cool with Star Wars. I'm like, yo, forget Star Wars. I want to see Tenet now. I was like, run it back, run it back. I was like, I want to see a full movie now because I was like, that 6 minute the opera scene in Tenet is just it's fucking beautifully made. It's so well, the action, the sound design, everything. It's him, John David Washington running through the whole opera, fighting Russians, whatever, fighting those bad guys. It's just it's an awesome opening scene. So Dark Knight for now, but Tenet is slowly getting to that spot. I feel like if I watch Tenet maybe again, maybe soon, I'll be like, it's a close tie. But for now, Dark Knight I still has the place. But we'll see. Time will tell. But to finish up our Barbenheimer episode, I will now review Greta Gerwig's most anticipated movie, I feel like, of the summer, almost the year too, is Barbie. And I'm not gonna lie too, I was hyped for Barbie almost as equally maybe for as Oppenheimer. Maybe about the same.
Okay.
Same, I would say. Greta Gerwig to me really is an actress that I think that year it was 2017 when Jordan Peele made Get Out. She made Lady Bird. It was a really cool, really good year for indie films. Or A24, small bit of stuff with Get Out like Jordan Peele. It was a really good year of like, wow, this was the kind of year of like actors turning directors and really showing even like stuff like The Big Sick. He didn't direct it, but Kumail Nanjiani and his wife, that was their first thing they wrote for a mainstream movie. It was really cool to see women, um, Jordan Jordan Peele, Kumail Nanjiani, people that didn't have a chance before to get their shot to make a movie. Yes, they're all low budget, but all of them proved like I can make a good film. Give me the chance. Jordan Peele proved that with Get Out. Greg Gerwig proved that with Lady Bird. Kumail Nanjiani and his wife Emily B. Gordon did the same thing. They proved they can write a screenplay together. It gave people who didn't have a chance to make movies before a chance on a platform. I think it was a really good year for filmmaking and independent cinema. Lady Bird is a great movie. I think that's still my best favorite movie of hers. Get Out is still my favorite movie of Jordan Peele, but I do love Nope too. Nope is a fucking awesome movie as well. But going to Barbie, I brought my mom and brought Zeta to the screening last night because they all wanted to see it too.
Okay, how did that go?
Honestly, my mom at first she goes, "I'll wait for it," and then I got tickets for me and Z to go to like a fan screen through Fandango, whatever. Nice. And my mom goes, "Hey, any tickets left for the screening?" I was like, "I don't know. I think it's sold out." But I was like, "I'll check." It's on Fandango. It was like there's one, but it was kind of like to the far right. I was like, "Listen, I'll give you my ticket. I'll sit to the far right." And my mom goes, "She was like, I'll see it," and she was like so hyped to go see this movie. And it was the experience last night was I think being way different than Oppenheimer on Tuesday because we walked into the screening at Barbie at Timmy Marketplace. It was like being at the club again at Varsity, bro. It was like a line to get in. There was people everywhere. I was like, what the hell is this? And for Oppenheimer on Tuesday at the screening, the people that weren't, you and I are part of the press, and so we're on the list, whatever. But if you're not part of the press list or the VIP friends of the, part of the VIP list as well, there was 300 people at AZ Mills in line for even outside too in the hot sun for Oppenheimer.
300 people, bro.
300 people, dude. And they only let a quarter of that weren't press or invited through like the marketing firm or the radio stations, or whatever. So it was like, oof. But Barbie, all same thing. You walked in, you're like, we had to wait in line, even though we had tickets, we were good to go. We still had to wait in line, get our actual tickets, get our poster, and walk in. And it was just like crazy, dude. I was like, hey, this is good for the movie business, it's good for entertainment, it's good for the box office, it's good for the box office and movie theater business. I was like, oh my god. But anyway, the hype was real for both these movies. Greta Gerwig to me is a director, writer that I keep watching. I think Lady Bird's a phenomenal movie. I love her version of Little Women. I think that movie is very beautiful shot, beautifully written, well acted. It's gorgeous to look at. It's a really, really beautiful movie, as is Lady Bird. I will say though, going on the bet, Barbie's a very fun movie, but I don't think it's her best movie. I think Lady Bird is still her best movie personally.
Okay. Actually, kind of my best slight tangent. I heard that Greta Gerwig apparently is attached to do 2 Narnia movies for Netflix. What are your thoughts on that?
I think
just based on like what you've seen from her.
Yes, 100%. 100%. However, Netflix
get that shit to Disney Plus, man.
Yeah, give it to someone that believes in the theatrical. I don't know. I think Netflix gonna make that. Netflix gonna. I don't know, man. For example, I love the first Knives Out. I did not like Glass Onion. I did not like Glass Onion at all. And I was like, I'm just worried that they're gonna dilute the brand or hurt the legacy of that thing. Because that first one is very special. That first movie is very. I never saw the third one. I feel like I think the first. I saw Prince. Crispian, not Crispian, Casby.
Oh, Casby, yeah.
Crispian, sorry. But as a kid,
the crispy Prince.
Is a Cookie Crisp guy just as a prince?
Oh my god!
But I really do think that she's the right person for sure, 100%. I'll watch. I think you and I even pitched a Batgirl movie in college of her doing Batgirl, and we were like. I think you and I were like talking about like, what if she did Batgirl with like Mick Snyder producing or whatever. We're like that would have been really cool. I still hope I'm manifesting it now. I'll be like, yo, if she produced it, if the Snyder's produced it and she do it, I was like, yo, that would have been really cool because I think she had a great eye for telling stories about female empowerment and female characters. It would have been really cool, but yeah, we'll see. But back to your thing, I think great choice, 100%.
Okay.
Netflix, I'm on board with. What about you?
Um, that's ironically, this is a tough question for me to answer because I saw the first Narnia movie once, basically in theaters. I wasn't even supposed to see it that day. It was like my brother's birthday, and there was this horror movie called When a Stranger Calls. So like me, my dad, my brother, my sisters, we went there, but like it was a scary ass fucking movie. So I couldn't handle it as a little boy. So then my dad was like, damn, Nick. So we ended up just going over to the Narnia theater. I watched it and I had fun with it. It was a good time. I haven't seen any of Greta Gerwig's stuff yet. Little Women is at the top of my list out of all the stuff that she's done besides Barbie. Little Women is one that kind of interests me the most. But when it was announced that she's gonna be doing that she might be doing Narnia, I'm like, that's kind of interesting. And it made me a little bit more interested in her filmography, like because based off of the movie she's already done, like I wouldn't have assumed that people would want her to do a Narnia movie. You know what I mean? It seems like she does relatively grounded stories, personal stories about people, and like Narnia is kind of like it's like a Harry Potter. It's a magical land, so I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I'm on board with it. I would even, and you mentioned like, what if she did Bad Girl? I would even maybe go so far as to say like, what if she did a Supergirl movie?
Yes.
I feel like that could be kind of interesting. Maybe
As
cast like either there's this actress, because initially I was thinking either she could do a Stargirl movie, who's another DC character. She's kind of similar to Supergirl, like she's a young teenager, and she has all this. It's kind of like a Spider-Man thing. Like she has this great cosmic power. Basically, she has like the cosmic staff, and it's her trying to balance it. But I was thinking about that. I'm like, nah, Supergirl would be more interesting because she's like the ultimate fish out of water, and so I'm kind of rambling. Excuse me, but I'm like
no, you're good.
that'd be kind of interesting. But I remember what I was trying to say. There was a Stargirl show on. It was originally the DC Universe app, and then it got moved over to HBO Max. And the woman that played Stargirl, her name is Breck Basinger, and just kind of how she is on that show, I'm like, I could kind of see her as Supergirl. Like it's a lot of those similar like character qualities, kind of brash, kind of hot-headed, but
Yeah.
ultimately has a good heart. So you like cast her as Supergirl, have Greta Gerwig direct it. I'd be kind of interested in something like that. I think that could be really cool.
Yeah.
There was another. Oh, you know what? No. Because there was another actress who I had in mind for Supergirl. Sydney Sweeney
Euphoria.
from Euphoria. Because
Yeah, it's pretty good.
she has range, and she
Yeah.
just looks like the character from the comics. So I think she would play that like really well. So like, and it could even be like a simple story. Like maybe you treat it kind of like Spider-Man Homecoming, like where you got her as Supergirl. Like I'm trying to figure out my place in the world, and Superman is acting as like my big brother, father figure type, and he's trying to relate to me, and he's trying to like teach me how to live on Earth, but like it's frustrating for me because like the last time I saw him, he was a baby because he had like went through the wormhole and Einstein theory of relativity, blah 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 blah. But also like she's basically stuck in the Stone Ages when she's here on Earth. Like I came from an advanced alien civilization, and now not only is my planet gone, but my parents are gone. The little baby boy I was supposed to protect is now a grown man protecting me. So now it's like, what's my place in the world? Like I don't understand any of this Earth culture. So yeah, starring Sydney Sweeney as Supergirl, and then directed by Greta Gerwig. I think that could be kind of cool
Dude,
and kind
all
of
right.
fun too, especially with the new James Gunn. Or
Yes.
with
Yes.
James Gunn kind of in charge of it. That's like fuck it, do it.
Dude, get filmmakers like her to come on board. If she does like a Spider-Man Homecoming, or again, you watch Lady Bird. If she does a Supergirl movie, the vein of Lady Bird, genius. Sign me up. 100%. I'm there. I'll invest. I'll invest tomorrow. 100%. I'm there. But no, dude, I think she's you definitely watch Little Women, definitely watch Lady Bird. I think Lady Bird, again, like I said, it was a year of great actors becoming filmmakers for the first time. That was our first movie that she directed. Same with Jordan Peele.
Okay,
It
and then
really was.
Lady Bird was A24, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
You know I love
Really,
me some A24 movies, especially them horror movies, bro. Oh my, Chef's Kiss.
this Lady Bird is a place in my heart for me because I remember I saw that with Julia,
Mm.
our dear friend Julia, who's now passed. But her and I saw that together at the Harkins that you and I saw Isle of Dogs at that small one on Mill Avenue.
Holy snap, crackle, and pop! Really? Okay, damn.
Yeah, I wish they brought that theater back. It's still been closed because of COVID. They say we'll see you next year. It's been now 3 years. That movie. I hope that comes back. That's the first Harkins of Arizona. But her and I saw that together sophomore year, and I was like, I didn't know too much about it. I knew Disaster Artist was coming. Look this year of A24, good A24 movies. Disaster Artist was coming out soon. I was like, cool. I was more looking forward to that. But I remember her and I saw it together at the Harkins Valley Art here in Phoenix, and I was like, whoa, this movie was a it hit me differently, but I remember Julia hit her differently because you were talking about yeah, as a woman finding your place in the world, finding your place like at, when you're that adolescence, from high school to college,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember I remember her and I just laughing a lot all the time. Great soundtrack too. It's a really really remarkable film for your first movie too. She killed it. So with Barbie, I was going in. I'm like, Greta Gerwig's, my girl. I can't wait to see what she does next. This is a very very fun movie. I had a lot of fun with this movie. Ryan Gosling, dude. I love me some Ryan Gosling. I have a huge man crush on this guy. God damn, man, he's so good in this. He's so funny. He's a great agent too, a great management. I feel like he does not pick a bad role. Yes, he's been in things that aren't maybe that great, like Gangster Squad. But I still like that. I still like that movie for what it was. It
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say Gangster Squad was cool. It was just kind of like how I mentioned earlier, like it kind of felt like it didn't like suit like really, really take it there. Like I thought
Right.
Gangster Squad was gonna be like more like you seen American Gangster, right?
Yeah,
With
love
Denzel.
that. So good.
I thought it was gonna kind of have a tone like that, but in
Yes.
like the like 20s, 30s, or 40s, whenever it took place, because that trailer was like dope.
Awesome.
Like you got Sean Penn
Jay-Z.
basically as like a kingpin, bro. And the cast was dope. Ryan Gosling, Josh Brolin, Anthony Mackie, Michael Pena. Like, it was just a little bit. It was just kind of soft to me, but it was still
Yeah.
solid though. But it was just kind of like, it felt a little PG.
Yes, yes. It felt a little too safe. It could have been really American Gangster, Goodfellas kind of vibe, but it kind of went a little safer route. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but anyway, he's still good at it. I love Later on 2049. I love all his movies. I love Drive. He really, man, it's fun seeing him in more like a fun comedic role, like kind of like Crazy Stupid Love. Dude, he really embraces the kind of the quirkiness and the silliness of this movie. And I'm telling you, man, he had me cracking up the entire movie, and I was like, I fucking love you, Ryan Gosling, man. I have a huge crush on you still.
Yeah,
Um,
Gosling was like surprisingly funny because I seen it was like this SNL skit where it was about the font for the James Cameron
oh yeah,
Avatar movie
Papyrus,
for
yes.
piracy. Excuse me. And like I'm watching it, I'm like, yo, this dude is mad fucking funny, bro. He's like
See,
he keeps using the same font. Like they're like, bro, relax. He's like, no, like
he can't keep doing
man.
this.
No, he's funny, man, and like he's such a good actor because the
Such a good
dramatic stuff,
actor.
the serious stuff, like he kills it in those roles. It's always like, well, yeah, he could play that. He's Ryan Gosling, he always does this, but like the funny stuff, like he kills it in those roles too. Like not a whole lot of people can really, really do
Right.
that.
Right. And if you could do that, a testament to you as a performer, as an actor, because man, it just you can do a lot. But yeah, man, he really was a big standout for me. America Ferraro, who I've been watching, Ugly Betty and Superstore. To me, America Ferrara and Ryan Gosling kind of stand out the most in this entire movie. I know this is a Barbie movie, but really those two really have some amazing moments. I was like, wow, they are just phenomenal in this movie. But for sure, my two. Again, I'm starting with the pros again. Phenomenal, great soundtrack from Lizzo to Nicki Minaj to Khalid, like so much, Billie Eilish. It's a phenomenal soundtrack. It's
Okay, they
very
got Khalid on there,
yeah,
Billie
dude,
Eilish. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna
bro,
have to see this movie then.
dude. Take Kaylin to this movie. I think Kaylin would love this movie as well. I think she
Oh,
would love this movie.
oh, you already
Um,
know.
Take her to this movie. It's a great again soundtrack. I think of our generation, all the hit top artists. Dude, oh my gosh, the production design in this movie is unreal. Kind of like how it was Oppenheimer too. But the production design of this movie is phenomenal. It really is phenomenal. Like it's just you're watching, like, oh my gosh, like the real sets, the background, the coloring, everything, the costumes, the production design in this is phenomenal. And I was like, this better win or get nominated for production design because I'm like, I have never seen a really, I mean, Marvel obviously for obvious reasons too, but for production design, it just was just beautiful to look at. And I was like, I was so impressed looking at the buildings, the houses, the beaches, everything. The production design is phenomenal. All in Barbie Land is all phenomenal. I was like, wow, they really took time and effort and really showed some amazing shots of how amazing this production team worked on for the design. Cinematography, she used Martin Scorsese's a cinematographer who did stuff like Kings of New York, Wolf of Wall Street, Irishman, The Departed, and I was like, wow, these are way different movies. And I'm like, wow, same guy who did Wolf of Wall Street
Wow. Okay.
did Barbie, and I was like, that's a really interesting choice. But man, cinematography of this, especially in the Barbie world, it's phenomenal. Again, I still think the cinematography by Hoytman Hoytema in Oppenheimer is definitely better because of the IMAX cameras and the setting, obviously. The cinematography of this movie is unreal, and I was like, yeah, watching it, I'm like, wow, this is for her third movie. She has amazing production design. She's a phenomenal cinematography, a great eye for certain shots, and I was like, wow, I was impressed by on a technical level aspect as well, just from her being only her third movie. I was like, wow, again, she proved that in Little Woman and Lady Bird, especially in Little Woman, all the greenery and the setting of that movie and all the set pieces in that too. But she has a great eye and great production team. I think that worked really well with her. I will again. This is not a spoiler because this was in the trailer, obviously too. But I do wish it kind of kept quiet. This movie, to me, I would picture this movie as a very weird combination of movies. Truman Show, one of my favorite movies of all time. It's Truman Show meets Elf meets Enchanted with a tiny, tiny splash of the first Matrix.
You know, I feel like I know exactly what you mean somehow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is why we're best friends. We have a podcast together, Nick. You get me. You get me.
Yeah, man. Because like in the trailer, I'm like initially it's like, oh, I'm thinking like, okay, so it's just gonna be like it's all the Barbies and Kens like interacting with each other. But then I think it was the second trailer or something where they go to the real world and you see again, this is all in the trailers. Like they go to the real world, you see like Will Ferrell there, and I was like,
Yeah.
at that point, I was like, hold up, and then like Kate McKinnon's character in the trailer, I was like, she's like, it seemed like she's maybe like the first doll or something like that. I'm just assuming, but I'm like, this story seems deeper than I originally thought, and
Yes.
I think there was like one line like, would you rather like live forever or like be immortalized like as an idea, or it was something like that. But I'm like, okay, I like philosophical kind of questions like that. So it definitely made me want to watch it more.
Yes, I'll tell you what, Nick. That part right there. I don't want to get too much spoiling for you or anyone of our listeners, but really, dude, this movie is not what you think at times. I think what we talked about it. This movie explores a lot of deeper meanings too. That was really brilliant on Greta Gerwig's part. Noah Baumbach, her partner, both in real life, both in personally and also professionally. They do a good job of kind of like bringing deeper messages to this movie a lot. And I'm like, wow, it was very again. I want to call this a kids movie because for it's rated PG-13. There's a lot of philosophical talk about death and being immortalized, and struggling of what it is to be a woman, and it's what it is to be like not feeling you belong anywhere. And I really thought like, wow, this is for again. It's not okay. It's not a kids movie. This movie has a lot of like really underlying messages and a lot of like themes of like, wow, this is very mature for a movie that's getting made for Barbie kids for Barbie. But no, this movie has a lot more mature themes to it. Like, wow, it was really kind of good on both Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach for bringing that in. But I would say though, Kate McKinnon kind of plays not the same at all. This is not a comparison, but if you were to compare, she's kind of like I guess her version of Morpheus, basically in the Barbie.
Okay. Interesting. She's
the
one that
stretch.
kind of like she like wakes her up in a way, right? Is that what it is? Like she's like, listen, man, this world ain't what you think it is. Play it. It's kind of like that.
Sort of. It's more of like more of kind of like a existential crisis of like who you are kind of thing. Not so much so Neo and Morph in Matrix, but it's in a way she is kind of playing her version of Morpheus in a way different way, completely different way in circumstance.
Oh, okay.
I had the Matrix kind of feel for it, and other reasons too that I won't spoil. But if you watch it, when you see it, you'll say, okay, I can see the kind of Matrix kind of like inspiration to a different way in this movie. But But yeah, definitely Truman Show, Elf, Enchanted, and Splash of Nature. I would kind of compare these movies to. This I want to show this actor real quick. I think he's a great actor. I haven't seen Secret Invasion yet, but I saw One Night in Miami. He's gonna be Bob Marley, which looks awesome if you ask me.
Yes.
Kingsley Benadir, man. I love watching this guy on screen because man, he's having the time of his life in this movie. I was like, I had the huge smile when I saw him on the screen. I was like, I thought he was great as Malcolm X. He was playing Malcolm X, which again is a big role to take on for any actor.
Yeah.
And when I'm Miami, was directed by the great oh my gosh, I'm thinking her name.
Regina King?
Regina King, yes, who I love from Jerry Maguire, everything, Boys in the Hood. Was she Boys in the Hood? No, she was in she's Friday. She's in Friday. That's right. She's in Friday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Friday, the Boondocks.
I love Regina King so much, so much. It's a great movie too, but she casted him as Malcolm X, phenomenal actor, great performance. In this movie, he's having the time of his life. I had a huge smile on my face watching him. He's having so much fun. He plays one of the Kens. Like he kind of plays like basically Ryan Gosling's best friend, also a Ken. Okay. And they have great chemistry with the two of them, and it's so much fun. And I remember seeing the Bob Marley trailer last week for the first time. I was like, I want to see this movie now because he has Bob Marley down to the T. From the trailer alone, I was like, I want to see this guy do everything. I think he was a phenomenal actor in One Night in Miami, but he was so great in this movie. I was like, man, good on him having a good time in this movie.
Yeah,
go him, dude. I can't wait to see him in Bob Marley and what he does next. I think all the Kens and Barbies in this movie are all perfectly casted, like Issa Rae, Alexandra Shipp from X-Men, and Jexy, the movie that you and I both like very much.
Jexy was hilarious. I'm definitely excited to see Issa Rae because I was introduced to the show. I had a conversation with Harry Lennox a few years ago, and he had brought it up. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to check that out. And I low-key binged it once I moved into my house. I'm like, yo, this show is amazing. And I know like Issa Rae, she was on Masterclass, and I was kind of checking that out a little bit. And it's cool too because she has a similar background as us a little bit, like starting off on YouTube and like slowly moved her way up to the movie world. So definitely an inspiration.
Yeah, and she's very likable too. She's very likable, a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. And she's a very hard worker too. Like I see her in a lot of stuff where she's busting her ass. And I think I take her inspiration from her too. Started from humble beginnings to get where she is now. I think it's remarkable what she accomplished in her career so far.
Yeah, and she moved up, bro.
Moved up, dude. And she plays Madam President. I think it was very good casting. She's having a lot of fun too. She's having a lot of fun too. She's one line I'm not gonna say, but like had the entire theater cracking up. That was really funny. She was really good. All the Barbies and Kens were good. I'm not the biggest Simu Liu fan. I think he's an okay actor. I think he's kind of overacting a lot of stuff, but he was good as the other Ken. A lot of good actors. I felt like everyone was casted perfectly. Like Alexandra Shipp, I think was great casted too as one of the Barbies. Everyone was casted literally perfect too. The Kens and the Barbies, without a doubt. There were a lot of scenes that again had me laughing out loud. Like I was cracking up laughing. It was hilarious. Like I was really crying, laughing at times. It was so funny, especially from Ryan Gosling as Ken. But you know what? This movie is brilliant because it has so much comedy, but it balances all the beautiful, heartfelt moments very well. Like again, with comedy and heartfelt moments, you gotta balance it really well. I do want some like really good like heartfelt moments, but I don't want to like be too much of either. It has to be a nice balance. I think what Greta Gerwig did here did a good job of balancing both because there are some really like emotional, heartfelt moments that reminded me of the Truman Show, of like him trying to figure out who he is and like, where do I stand in this world? Am I good enough for myself? Am I good enough for the real world? Like, who am I? I think it was a really kind of great comparison to those two movies. And I do think all the heartfelt moments really worked and supported the comedy. The comedy supported the heartfelt moments a lot throughout this movie. The third act shifts its tone for sure, and to more of a dramatic, more like a self-discovery kind of film. It's a very hard shift for sure. It's a very hard turn to a different genre, but I think Greta Gerwig does a good job of kind of really managing it like to a T, and also knowing, hey, listen, we're changing gears a little bit, but we're still the same movie that you've been watching for the past hour and a half, hour 45. But again, it was very kind of done kind of seamlessly and with a lot of great kind of like carry over with all the different genres, but having that really emotional, heartfelt scene to it. I'll tell you what, man. Michael Cera as Alan, he's the only Alan in this movie, was pretty funny. I mean, he's still the same kid from Superbad and Scott Pilgrim, but man, there's a lot of funny parts where I was like, good Michael Cera, man. Like he's with the girls, in the pink jumpsuit, whatever, the pink glasses. He's one of the girls' gang. It's really funny, like how he's kind of like he blends in so well with everyone, with the Kens and with
Really? Okay.
and the Barbies. But the commentary on him a little bit, not spoiling. It's kind of like, where do I belong to? I'm the only me in a land of different Kens and Barbies. I'm the only me. How do I stand out? Who do I fit with? It's kind of like him trying to figure out like, where do I belong to? That was kind of like cool to see, kind of like his perspective on a lot of stuff, because he's kind of outsider in this huge world. So I thought it was kind of very clever, very funny. And Helen Mirren's the narration was really funny too, because you know it's her voice the moment the movie starts. And she's a lot of a lot of funny commentary, kind of like very meta. Again, it's very meta, very fourth wall breaking. Again, has some kind of Deadpool kind of vibe to it, of like not the violence, but like all the fourth wall and the meta kind of humor, which worked very well too. So I think it's definitely worth seeing. But as all movies, I do have some cons. I like Greta Gerwig. Do you know what Baumbach is by chance?
The name sounds familiar. Like what else has he worked on?
So he's one of Wes Anderson's like right hand man, one of his best friends. And he has written stuff like Marriage Story, which I didn't really care for personally.
No, with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. Okay.
Yeah, he wrote. If you the Meyerowitz stories with Adam Sandler and Ben Stiller.
No, I saw an analysis on like how they broke down the like how the characters talk, like how they specifically do the dialogue in that, which I thought was interesting. But no, I'm vaguely familiar with it. I haven't seen it though.
Worth the watch. I think it's one of Sandler's best movies. I think he has good chemistry with Ben Stiller and Dustin Hoffman.
Okay, because they're brothers, right? And then Hoffman is their father in the movie.
Yeah, kind of on the loose in a way. They're kind of like trying to keep dad like from like getting him in jail from kind of like getting too crazy as an old man.
Okay, I got you.
But I would say Noah Baumbach is kind of like a less artsy version of Wes Anderson, but very similar dialogue, very similar kind of how characters talk and interact with each other, but not like the whole kind of like the very steady cam, Wes Anderson kind of like the Isle Dog and stuff, and like Moonrise Kingdom stuff. But he wrote again. He did write Mr. Fox, which is my favorite Wes Anderson movie. He wrote Life Aquatic, another one of my favorite Wes Anderson movies. But he writes kind of very kind of just like, yeah, typical, kind of very stereotypical white characters in a way. If you ask me, it's doesn't really add anything personally. So I was kind of like, okay, I think they're married in real life and they have kids together with Greta Gerwig, but I just feel like his characters are very bland at times, where I don't feel kind of like okay, emotional connection to them. But I think they work really well together in this movie for sure. But I think Greta Gerwig for sure takes the win. Again, even though he's co-writer, I do think Greta Gerwig did most of the heavy lifting of this movie. But the dialogue, it's about other movies too. If you watch all those movies, some of the dialogue doesn't really match different characters. Like there's a character in this, there's like 12-year-olds talking about like fascism and like world oppression. And I'm like, you're 11 and 12 years old. I'm like, what? Like we're talking about like movies and like Game Boys when we were that age, or like music and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't think 11 and 12-year-olds who are in middle school are talking about like the economic society of why it was downfall, whatever. I'm like, y'all are 12 years old. I was like, I don't know about you, bro, but I was talking about that when we were 12. I'm talking about like Superman and Batman and Spider-Man and video games and movies, not the oppression of society and economic failure. I was like, yeah, that's not really what we're talking about. So I kind of felt like out of place with 12-year-olds talking about this.
Okay, it kind of sounds like it low key.
And that's a lot of Noah Baumbach's movies. You watch some of the movies, it feels the same way of like that wouldn't really match the character's age or their kind of personality. It wouldn't really match. So I was kind of like, oh, that's for sure Noah Baumbach thing. So I was like, that wouldn't really match that well. I love Margot Robbie. I think she's a phenomenal actress. I loved her ever since Wolf of Wall Street. She's great Harley Quinn. She's great in Babylon. Hollywood as Sharon Tate. I do think, though, she kind of takes a backseat to her own movie, where this is her movie, but she's kind of outshined by her other co-stars, whether it's Issa Rae, America Ferrera, Ryan Gosling, Kingsley Ben-Adir. I think she's kind of playing a backseat to her own movie. I was like, I think Margot Robbie has a great performance in her, but I think she kind of like just could have been giving a little bit more. I do think it's a lot of overacting at times on her end. I was like, I've seen you do better work before. Again, I think she's still great in this movie for sure, but the overacting at times kind of like, I don't know. I think good performances, but there are a lot of time, a handful of times where I'm like, it's a little overacting. But again, she's playing that character for a reason, which again in the movie I'll explain why. But it definitely does feel like this isn't her best performance. I think she kind of plays a backseat to her own movie, which it happens in a lot of movies too. You know, like a lot of other movies, like the side character kind of steals the show, whatever. So we've seen it before. Uh, I love Will Ferrell. Love him so much. Why is he in this movie? I mean, he's just kind of playing just like Will Ferrell from SNL, basically. And I love Will Ferrell so much. I'm like, dude, you're better than this. Like, I want to see you move more like the other guys and stuff like, like, I don't know. It just, to me, that whole Will Ferrell and the whole guys at Mattel just felt like a really kind of like watered down, kind of like, yeah, like we're the bad guys. Look at us. We're kind of this and that. I was like,
Okay.
yeah.
It felt kind of basic, huh?
Yeah, it felt very basic, and it felt unneeded too. Like, if they weren't in the movie, it wouldn't change anything at all. If you ask me, like, okay, it would have been the same thing. It would have been like, okay, like this and that. Barbie's in the real world. Yeah, it just Will Ferrell just kind of played an idiot the entire time, and I was like, yeah, I love Will Ferrell, but I'm like, I'm kind of tired of playing the same idiot each time. Love him as an actor, love his comedies, but I'm like, it didn't work, and all his Mattel goons just did not work either. This is something not movie related, but it is related in a way. I think the marketing in this movie kind of hurt the movie a lot, where it just like showed too much. I think I've talked about this before at the last screening we went to, and as well as the last few episodes of the podcast, where the marketing kind of just really kind of like showed too much. And I do think maybe post strike they got to dial back on the marketing because they're showing way too much. They're showing way too much. I do think that the first teaser, year ago, I remember Zay saw something on Instagram. It was like Margot Robbie's personal watch list for Barbie, and one of them was Truman Show, and I was like, "Ooh, I like this. I like this." Because Truman Show is called about like, it's in my life, but when things started getting weird, what's going to happen next? Mm-hmm. And I kind of wish the marketing didn't show them going to the real world, or show them kind of like, what you do in the real world with Ken. I think it would have been a really cool secret to keep it like on the wraps of like, yeah, like she didn't know like what's going on in the real world. That would have been a really kind of better approach to this movie, if you ask me.
I'm with you on that because I've been kind of thinking about that for a little bit. Like you said, trailers sometimes tend to like just show like way too much. I feel like my opinion on trailers is like they should be more like teasers for the movie, not so much summaries of the movie you're about to see.
Right.
Like there was one trailer I thought it was fantastic. It was for this Michael Douglas movie. It was called The Game, directed, if I remember correctly, by David Fincher, who did Gone Girl, 7, things like that. But the teaser, and I would definitely recommend this movie to everybody because this movie had me on the edge of my seat. Like it was one of those like, okay, I have no idea what the fuck is going on. Like, bro, the trailer literally. Check it out, bro, because it's really, really fucking good. But the trailer it's an all black space, and you know those they're like wooden kind of like humanoid figures. You'll see them in like art classes or like painting type shit. So it was that, but it was suspended by strings. You never see where the strings are coming from, and then like at some point, like maybe like the hand of it might twitch or the knee or whatever. And every now and then it would be just a line of dialogue from the movie. Absolutely no context. But then like the music kind of builds up a little bit. The dialogue, it starts getting more intense. You hear Michael Douglas's voice, you hear this actress's voice, you hear this other actor's voice. And it's like, it's all just, it's building up to a point, and then at a certain point, like kind of towards the end of the trailer, that doll, like it's just shaking like violently, like whoever's holding the strings is just like waving their fucking hands around. And then it was like a moment of silence, and then you hear a gunshot, and that wooden doll just falls down, and then it's The Game. Like that was the name of the movie, The Game. So, and that was the whole trailer. You didn't see anybody. You heard some of the lines from the movie, but you didn't understand what the fuck was going on. And then, so when you're watching the movie, you're really kind of like, I don't really know what to expect, but that teaser was really fascinating. That's what they need to do.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I would recommend it 100%, dude. I used to watch that shit like every fucking week when I was in high school. But that's what. So back to your point, as far as like the marketing goes, I don't feel like you should do like teaser trailer 1, trailer
Right.
2, trailer 3, final trailer, because even trailers have trailers for them. And I
I
get,
know.
like, on one hand it builds up anticipation for the movie, because if you can get people excited to see a trailer for a movie, then you can get them excited for the movie. So I get that. But this whole thing, like, well, we got to do like 5 fucking trailers. You're either going to run into an issue where you're just basically showing the same footage over and over again, or you're gonna have to show more footage like from the movie and risk giving away important plot elements, maybe even just the twist. Because I'm with you. Like, when I saw in the, I think it was the second trailer where she's driving the car, she goes out into the real world. It
Mhm.
was like, nah, that seemed that's something that should have just been a surprise. Like, all the
Right.
surprises in the movie, for any movie, don't show them in the trailer. Like, just kind of tease the kind of vibe, the atmosphere of the movie, or kind of tease generally what the story is about. Like, the first few, I gotta do this because
Yep.
y'all know me, Doug, you know me. I'm a comic book fan, and Man of Steel is one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. But
Hell yeah.
the first 2 teasers for that movie, it was a shot of a fucking butterfly on a swing. It was like some Kansas like grass fields or some shit.
Yes.
It was a really close up shot of a little boy with his dad, who was obviously young Clark Kent and Pa Kent. And then it was some dialogue, and then the last shot, it's just Superman flying into the sky, but you're looking at it kind of from like a distance, and then at a certain point he breaks the sound barrier and flies up, and then Man of Steel, and it's the Man of Steel logo coming on this release date, and they did 2 versions of that. It was the same exact footage. The only thing was the dialogue was different, and the first one, I don't remember which one came first, but one of them was dialogue from the Pa Kent character played by Kevin Costner. The other one was the Jor-El dialogue played by Russell Crowe. And it's like they both give, the reason those 2 teasers work is because they both kind of give, like I said earlier, the atmosphere they of the movie. They kind of go into a little bit of the themes, or at least 2 themes that could, or 2 themes, 2 philosophies, 2 messages, however you want to look at it. And then they just left it at that.
Yeah.
Like, okay, bet, so here's a little teaser. This is kind of what it is. We're not showing the villain. We're
Hmm.
not even showing the Superman suit. We're not showing anything. This is just kind of, this is the type of Superman movie that we're trying to make. It's going to be dramatic. It's going to be heavy, emotional. It's, and all of that good stuff. And then they just left it at that. I would have just left it at that. Maybe if you want to do just one basic generic trailer, because sometimes audiences kind of just need basic generic shit, then do that one trailer, but leave it at that. Like, that should be
Yeah.
the most, man. Like, a teaser and then a basic trailer, because I'm getting to the point where I'm like, okay, I saw the first trailer. I don't want to risk being spoiled by anything, so I'm not gonna watch any more trailers after that. Like, I'm kind of starting to get
Exactly.
to that point, because, like you said, they just be spoiling shit sometimes.
Showing too much. Showing too much. And
Hmm.
that Man of Steel trailer, man, I had goosebumps thinking about that. I remember seeing that before Dark Knight Rises, and I was like, said, you 1 year, like a year from now, and I was like, no, not a year from now. I want to see it tomorrow. I was like, please.
Yeah,
That
man.
was a really good tease. No, I agree. So I do think that they didn't. I wish they didn't show that the real world stuff in the trailer. I think it kept the Truman Show secret aspect to the movie. It would have been even more special, if you ask me. But again, I didn't make the movie, obviously, but I do think that marketing needs to be cut back a lot going forward with these movies. And I think this movie could have had a better marketing if it was including some of the real world stuff. That's just me personally. Also, for our screening too, again, this is a personal, this is like a first world personal issue for the screening that we were at last night. They showed 2 full scenes of the movie, like the entirety before the screening, like
Mhm.
a quick look into the movie, basically, like music playing, whatever. And Z, and my mom were like, why did they show us this? Because it was like how important this movie is, and I'm like, yeah, it's important, but like it would have been cool to see these scenes in the movie with the context that we know about it. Because now we saw 2 full scenes literally two of those scenes to his entirety, like before the screening. It was like, yeah, like, quick look into the movie, and I was like, yeah, that hurt. That kind of hurt like the experience for us, not a lot, but like a little bit. But we would have enjoyed it a bit more if we didn't see those scenes. So that was kind of weird on WB's part to show that before the screening. And I just a little nitpicking I get for first world our screening issue, but it would have been
Yeah.
cool not to see those two certain scenes. I will say this too before I wrap this up. I do think that Margot and Ryan are two of my favorite actors working today. I think they're both beautiful and gorgeous. Both of them are. I do
Mm-hmm.
think that they have good chemistry, but similar to what I said before with Emily Blunt and Cillian Murphy, I didn't really feel their chemistry working all that time. I think it was good in certain parts, but it wasn't consistent. It wasn't consistent enough. And I do feel like they like really cute scenes together, but it felt slipping throughout the entire rest of the movie. I just didn't feel their chemistry at all. And I was really hyped. I love both of them as actors. I was like, oh, I can't wait. To my favorite actors working together. I can't wait for this. It wasn't that, again, hard to compare, obviously, but like how you see with Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling have really good chemistry with four different movies. I just didn't feel a chemistry between two of them in this movie. I wish they could maybe kind of work me improve on that a little bit more. So I wanted to see them like good chemistry between Barbie and Ken, and a lot of like good kind of like commentary about their relationship as both Ken and Barbie and who they are as people and like self discovery again. But I just didn't really feel their vibe together in their certain scenes. Again, really cute scenes at the beginning of the movie, but throughout I was kind of like, I just don't see them together. I don't see this. I'm not really buying this. So that's again my thing. Like I said too, this movie. I won't call this a kids movie. I think there's a lot of great social commentary about
Mm-hmm.
life, about female empowerment, feminism, and about like kind of like individuality, stuff like that. Like how do you sound differently? So it definitely has a lot of good stuff that like they wanted to like kind of talk about. But I do think that they try to jam a lot of stuff in at times. I do feel like, ooh, focus on this more. Like focus on this more. I want to see more of that. But they do want to cram it. They do want to cram in a lot of stuff. Where I was like, oh, okay, I get it. But again, it didn't feel like it was like, oh, this is forced in here at all. No, I didn't feel that at all. But I do wish they kind of spent more time on certain things. So they introduce a lot of like commentary and social stuff and like commentary on certain stuff and like about people and about our culture, about our society too. So very important to have that. But I do feel like kind of threw too much in at times. Where again, it should have been just a little bit maybe sprinkled in a little bit more periodically, not all at once or not all at the same time. But I will also give Barbie another solid 8 out of 10. I think it's worth seeing in theaters. Everyone do a double feature. I don't care what we do. Barbie, Oppenheimer. Do the more intense one first, then more lighthearted one next, or vice versa. Do the Barbenheimer opening weekend or opening week a double feature. It's worth seeing both these in theaters. Again, they're both 8 and they're great movies by filmmakers, very different filmmakers, very different films, but two great filmmakers, both in Ryan Gosling and Christopher Nolan and Greta Gerwig. So definitely do the Barbenheimer double feature. And like I said, I hope these movies do well. We need it for our industry, for our box office, for our entertainment industry, for the movie theater business. So it's the last two big movies we have for the rest of summer. Again, we have Haunted Mansion and Ninja Turtles and Gran Turismo, but a Blue Beetle. But it's a long shot for these movies. So support your local movie theaters, support the movies. It's important that we have these movies and both playing at the same time because it's important that we support out in these big movies and for the love of our movies, for our love of movies and for our love of the box office. So see both these movies in theaters. I definitely recommend it. But we're now out of the show, and my friend, as you always know, we are going to end the show with our one-on-one, which is our one movie, one show recommendation to our listeners to watch. Nick, you first, my friend. What is your one-on-one of this week?
Okay, so my one-on-one for this week. Let me think. Okay, I gotta do a deep dig here. So there was one actually a Ryan Gosling movie from what year? I think it was 2013. Yes, it was the same year as Man of Steel. It's called Only God Forgives, directed by Nicholas Winding Refn.
He did
If
Drive,
I
right?
Yeah, he did Drive. I just want to let me make sure I pronounce that correctly. Yeah, Nicholas Winding Refn for sure. So, and this was a very like dark kind of abstract movie. The basic premise, if you there are rather the surface level premise, it's like Ryan Gosling. His character works in the criminal underworld. and you know he's it's basically just he's doing criminal shit, and there's this cop that I think is kind of on his trail, and he's investigating him, but the movie's ambiguous as to who or what this particular cop like is. So I thought that was really interesting, and it's one of those movies where you watch it and you kind of get the sense like I think this character is a metaphor for either like a topic or like a theme or whatever. So I enjoyed it a lot because of that. It's one of those movies you watch it, it's ambiguous. You can kind of just get multiple meanings out of it. I'm not gonna. I don't want to say too much because I really would just recommend it. Like the way that the way the cinematography is, and the way that they use color, and like how they'll use kind of like dream sequences to tell a story. There's little subtle hints in dialogue and just in the characters like body movements. Like Ryan Gosling's character, like his mother is in the film. The character's mother is in the film, and when they interact with each other, you kind of get this sense that okay, it's clearly it's not like a loving mother-son relationship, but it's one of those kind of like what the fuck happened? What were y'all doing? What was going on between you two? Like while he was coming up, like it's kind of like that. And Ryan Gosling's character, I forget what his name is, but he's a very quiet, reserved guy. Like Drive, but it's even though he doesn't verbalize very much, you still basically know like what he's thinking, because again, like he's a more physical kind of character, but still in subtle ways. It's not one of these really big like blockbuster type movies, but it's very interesting. I would 100% recommend it. Let's see. So yeah, that movie's called Only God Forgives, and yeah, I'd recommend that movie. Let me think. For TV shows, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna throw this out there. There was it's a show called Arrow. It came out, or it first released in 2012, and it was on the CW, and it's based off of the DC comic character Green Arrow, but they wanted to make it very like basically like the Dark Knight. You know, they made it very real world, and when they were first kind of conceptualizing this show, and when they were like doing all the press, they're like, yeah, this is just Green Arrow, and we're doing it like the Dark Knight kind of, where there's no superheroes in this world, everything is very real world, very grounded, and blah blah blah. And like the first season was dope. You know, the only thing with like the first few seasons, it's just like the acting can kind of use some work, but they're new actors, so you kind of got to give it a pass. But the reason I'm picking this show is, one, it's a good show, and two, like even though even though they wanted it to just be, you know, it's grounded, there's nothing super like sci-fi or fantastical about it. It's just a street level vigilante basically. That was how they started out, but it ended up branching out into a bunch of different shows, because in season 2 they introduced the Flash, and they were having like just regular crossovers with each other, which you don't really get that in superhero television. So everything that they were doing was in a way unprecedented, and it spun out into the Flash, and then one of the producers went off to the channel CBS, channel 8, I believe, and he did Supergirl. But because he was doing the Flash and Arrow too, like he found a way to cross Supergirl over, and they just explained it as like Supergirl exists in her own universe. So very early on, like you're still dealing with the multiverse, and then after Supergirl, it was like Legends of Tomorrow, which was just other characters that we'd seen on 2 of the 3 shows so far. Like they all formed a group, and then after that, they did like Black Lightning, and he was really cool because he was kind of like, it was like the DC version of Netflix's Luke Cage. Like I'm a local hero. I'm a pillar of the community, and the way that they characterized him, Black Lightning, was really cool because his secret identity, Jefferson Pierce, like I said, pillar of the community, a black superhero. He's the principal of a school. Like all of the students there basically look up to him. So I was like, that's really cool. And like, you know, these show, and then after that it was Batgirl, and then after that it was like Superman and Lois, which is a show I love, and da 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 da. So just from that one show, it kept just branching out, and it created this whole universe. Like Arrow lasted for 8 seasons, and then you know all of these other shows just came from it, and it's like it's basically all over now. Like they kind of wrapped it all up, and they didn't necessarily wrap it up in the best way, but overall, it's like I it was such a great experience watching these shows. You know, whether it was a good show or a bad show, low key, because some of these motherfuckers had some awful seasons, and a couple of them I even just had to stop watching because it just got kind of whack. But it was still kind of like looking back on it, it's like wow, that's really special. Like as a comic book fan, and I grew up with these shows. You know what I mean? So it's like the fact that they all ended, it's like the end of an era because I've been watching these shows since 2012. You know what I mean? Like I was 14, a freshman in high school, bro. So yeah, so Arrow for my TV show, and then Only God Forgives for my movie selection.
Yeah, I still gotta watch. I still gotta watch. I think I was watching Only God Forgives at one point. Then I was watching it on Hulu. Then the next day they removed it off the streaming service. But I think I see it now. It's on Amazon Prime. So I definitely gotta watch Only
Yeah,
God Forgives.
yeah, check it out for sure. I'm gonna have to give it another rewatch too because that's like, bro, that's a damn good movie.
You know what? Since we're doing Ryan Gosling, probably now I'm going to for my one I'm going to do a movie that really means a lot to me that I saw with you actually in college, which is Blade Runner 2049, directed by the great Denis Villeneuve. I remember
Yes, indeed.
you and I and some friends at the time in college went to the opening night at 10, or it was 10:30 at night and for IMAX and for Blade Runner 2049. And that's an experience that I will never forget because I remember you and I are like the scenes where they're driving or the
Uh-huh.
aerial shots. You and I our chairs were shaking. The
Yeah,
sound
bro.
was the sound was crazy. But I remember you and I thanks for that. I was even though I had to pee really bad halfway in the movie. It's a 3 hour movie too. I
Yeah,
was
we
just
all held it in, you guys. Like
we had
it was
an
a
older.
journey, man, but it was worth it. It was definitely worth it.
So worth it, dude. I just remember being mesmerized by the screen, like seeing like the visual effects, the flying, everything, the action, the set pieces, the cinematography by Roger Deakins, Ryan Gosling, Harrison Ford. Everything in that movie was just beautiful. And I remember feeling something that I never felt before in a movie before, just feel like so immersed, just feeling so like transported. That's the beauty of IMAX, beauty of
Mm.
filmmaking. It's the beauty of Denis Villeneuve's films like Dune and Prisoners and Sicario and Arrival. He's a remarkable filmmaker, but that movie just to me hit differently. I just remember just being in awe of what we were seeing. And I was just like, oh my god! And seeing that movie in IMAX I'm so glad you and I did that because it was just like I experienced like no other. I felt like they never released an IMAX version of that movie, unfortunately, on home video or Blu-ray. And I'm begging IMAX one day to bring it back theaters for a one night only or one weekend only because goddamn, I dream about that movie a lot. Seeing that in IMAX again because Jesus, that was like an experience like no other. Kind of like seeing Endgame with you, Infinity War with you guys in college too. But I just remember just being mesmerized by that movie and just feeling like I want to live in this world. I want to live in this movie because it's just so beautiful and it was so amazing. And I love that movie so much. It's my top 10 of all time. So I'm for sure going Blade Runner 2049 because it's just a masterpiece. And I don't use that word lightly at all. That movie is a masterpiece from start to finish. Cinematography, the acting, the score by Hans Zimmer, visual effects. Ana de Armas is beautiful, like, great in it. She's phenomenal in it. She's also just flat out gorgeous. It's just a beautiful movie that I wish people. Again, it flopped really bad when that movie came out, unfortunately, and like there was no
Yeah.
sequels for it. It just breaks my heart to this day. 6 years later, that movie that no one saw but us. It was just if you didn't see the movie in IMAX, you missed out on a huge experience. You and I had bragging rights for life for that movie because really, that was like a once in a lifetime kind of movie. See that in IMAX and seeing that movie, just how Denis filmed it and the visuals and Roger Deakins cinematography, just a literally perfect movie in my eyes. So that's my movie of the week. And for my show, I'm gonna go with that show that we watched with Zeta recently, which is Danny McBride and Walton Goggins in Vice Principals. Do you know this show, Nick?
No, I haven't heard of this show. Tell me about it.
So it's literally these two guys. Bill Murray plays at this high school in South Carolina. Bill Murray stepping down. He's the principal of the school, and
Mm-hmm.
Walton Goggins and Danny McBride play these kind of two hothead, kind of like just kind of jerky vice principals, but they both want the job so badly, and they hate each other. Like they hate each other, and they both think they're gonna get this job once the principal steps down. But the school district brings in this woman from Philadelphia to come in, and both kind of like caught off guard. They're like, it's supposed to be us, so they kind of team up
Mm-hmm.
to bring her down, so they both can be so they both can become principal basically. And it's a TVMA. It's Dan McBride. You know, it's kind of humor. It's very raunchy and very kind of just like very lot of vulgar words. But man, it is so funny because it's literally these two guys. I want to bring down this woman so badly. So they have the principal job at some random high school in South Carolina, and it is so funny, dude. It's one of the funniest shows ever because it's so, again, Danny McBride kind of humor. It's very uncensored, unfiltered. It's very kind of just like, hey, like they'll do anything to get this job for a principal job, of all jobs. And it's so absurd and it's so wacky and so kind of get raunchy. But if you like his humor, it's super, super funny. I rewatched it with Zeta the other day, full binge, and she loved it too. So it's really one of those shows I just love so much because Dan McBride to me always cracks me up. And the show is so absurd, but it just works on
Mm-hmm.
all levels, and it's really hilarious. So I highly recommend Vice Principals is my show of the week because oh man, it's really ridiculous. It's again a show about these two guys that want principal jobs so badly that they'll really do anything to bring this woman down. And again, it's absurd. So recommend both Blade Runner 2049 and Vice Principals. I think Blade Runner 2049 is streaming on Hulu right now or Max, and Vice Principals is also on Max, but both worth the watch. Wait, before we close out too, what's your favorite Margot Robbie movie?
My favorite Margot Robbie movie, I think it's a tough one, bro. I'm gonna have to go with, you know what? I'm gonna go with Focus, released in 2015.
Bro,
Her and Will
yes,
Smith.
yes.
That's my shit, low key. I think it's kind of I feel like it got not like a bad rap, but I'm like, nah, this movie's dope, man. I don't really have any issues with it. It's a fun movie. It's kind of this, they got like the whole heist thing, they got romance, but it's just a fun overall movie. And they had really good chemistry. This might be a hot take. I kind of think maybe he should have just stayed with her and then left Jada low key, man, especially after what ended up going on. But no, yeah. I gotta go with Focus.
Focus, yeah. You know what, Nick? This is why we have a podcast. This is why we're best friends. I'm going with Focus too. I almost went with
Hell yeah.
Once in Hollywood. I do love that movie a lot too, but she's not really the lead of that movie. But I think she was a great Sharon Tate. I think she's a very remarkable actress in that movie too.
Yeah.
I do love her as Harley Quinn. But Focus is a very underrated movie because she has great chemistry with Will Smith. Surprise, surprise. But I think that movie is very underrated. I think that movie came out, no one saw that movie. It's a very great kind of heist, but it's about con artists, and it's very smartly written too, and it's very sleek, it's very sexy, it's very stylish, and it has a lot of good chemistry. It's filmed real well too, and again, it's very well that talked about a lot, but it's kind of like her first kind of big role post Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah,
And like I
and
said,
this was like leading up to Suicide Squad too, and like
yes,
everybody was hyped there, like, oh man, Will Smith is Deadshot,
but
Margot Robbie is as Harley
Harley
Quinn. Like
Quinn.
I know, like me for sure. I was like, oh hell, okay, yeah, I'm with that. I was totally on board.
Yeah, I think Focus is a movie that I'm gonna rewatch maybe this weekend because it's so good and it's so underrated. But it's just filmed really just kind of like very interesting and very a lot of intellect and a lot of just kind of just like smart and savvy, and it's a very really really good movie. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna go with
And
Focus too.
and the trailers were fantastic. One of them, I remember
Great
they had
trailers.
it was the Frank Ocean song.
Bad
What
Religion.
was it?
Bad
Bad
Religion.
Religion, dude. That trailer made me fall in love with that song, Bad Religion, man. That low key became my theme song, man.
It's so good. And also, it's a good soundtrack too. But like, really, Will Smith and Margot Robbie have great chemistry, and they play off like incredibly well with each other. And you're right, maybe you should have stayed with her. But
I
left
think
behind closed.
so.
Well, I think it's. I think we both agree on that too. But that's a different. That's. But this isn't the red table talk, unfortunately, guys. So sorry about that.
Right.
Uh,
That's a wild shit, low key, bro. But that's a different conversation. You're right. You're right.
But guys, thank you so much for joining us this week. And as always, you can find the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Also, shout out to our screening rep, Lee, who has been remarkable with the screening and stuff like that. She's part of Frost Communications. So I adore Lee and Allison, but Lee's been super helpful getting us these screenings and just been like really a great partner, a great collaborator with the screenings that we also promote, like Strays and Joyride. So look out for more of those screenings this upcoming months. But I want to give a quick shout out to her as well because she's been really phenomenal. But anyway, Nick, before we close out, where can our viewers find you as always?
You can find me on YouTube at Donning Vision, capital D, capital V, and Instagram at Donning Vision, all lowercase, all one word. And you can find any Donning Vision content, basically, like I said, on YouTube, Instagram, and anywhere else you can find podcasts, you guys.
And I think I had it last week, but I'll check again tonight. I think I have your short film and I have your Donning Vision as well in our link tree. I'm gonna double check tonight after the show. So check out our link tree for that as well. You can find myself, The Young Jones, on Instagram, all one word. I'm doing more kind of like quick critic film stuff on Twitter, which is at Capri_Sun, SON. You can find the show as well on Instagram and TikTok at Midway Avenue Productions. Our YouTube channel as well, Midway Avenue Productions, and our website, midwayavenueproductions.com. As always, guys, we'll see you next time.
See you. Deuces, everybody. Appreciate you.